lights are out and you stumble in the dark. You kept pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life feels lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds. And when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. Just call me.
From Iowa Speedway, the Stacy Strong SNN Cup Series is ready to swoop in on the Hawkeye State. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Newton, Iowa. We're back and better than ever from a week of road racing on the left coast, and these drivers are eager to get rolling on the 7/8 mile oval you see before you. With Matt DiCiani and Patrick Gitter taking the week off from Sonoma, our hometown hero from Lamar's, Iowa, Nolan Hodgson, jumped up to the points lead, notching another top 5 finish of his 2024 resume. Tonight we're ready to see who can keep themselves from being irate in Iowa and who can dig their way through the traffic onto the podium in primetime on Sunday Night NASCAR. I'm Dave Regal alongside Alan Bergen on loan from the Racers Elite Cup Series here in the Tony Trapasso Memorial broadcast booth, and as always, we're thrilled to be with you every step of the way, from the green flag to the checkered flag, right here on Sim Racing Media. And Alan, it is always a joy when you come and slide alongside of me here in the Tony Trapasso Memorial broadcast booth. I'm ready for a great show. What say you?
Oh man, dude, I'm ready too. Look, when Rusty Wallace designed this racetrack, he took Richmond and made it larger and plopped it in the middle of the cornfield. And I got to tell you this, Dave, I'm going to steal a movie reference. If You build it, they will come. And the SNN Cup Series has come to Iowa. I am pumped. Let's get it on.
Yeah, and these drivers are pumped too. Of course, qualifying well underway as we take a peek here. You and I can see it on our timing and scoring right now. 28 drivers have laid down a qualifying effort tonight. That leaves about, 7 drivers who have not. So we're looking at 35 total drivers when the green flag flies in just a few minutes. Dylan Banks right now laying hot time down at 24.07 seconds. Of course, scheduled distance tonight, 350 laps at Iowa, but those laps will melt away pretty quickly, as does the track temperature here. As you see here right now, 99 degrees on the asphalt, 88 if you're in the stands, but that's during qualifying. Of course, we're going to see some of that change as the sun goes down, the lights come on. That means that the times will drop and the speeds will increase for sure here at Iowa Speedway. We mentioned it a moment ago, and, Alan, I know that you don't get to hang out as often as you would like to with us here in the Tony Trapasso Memorial Broadcast booth, but let's take a look at these point standings. Nolan Hodgson with 588 points squirts into first position on the point standings. Just 1 point ahead of Sean Rogers out of Kalamazoo, Michigan. 588 to Hodgson, 587 to Rogers, 554 to Matt DiCiani. And, things just get a little hairier as we get deeper down here. Now, take a look at some of these point standings. We've got a couple of ties that are going to have to be settled out. And, of course, we also have a couple of these where they literally are just neck and neck. I mean, Eric Papineau and Mike Witt tied for 10th position right now, and 383 apiece. Then just 1 point separates Chris Davis from Patrick Gitter. And, I'm at a point now, at least in this league, where I'm ready to see whether or not the men are men and the goats are scared.
And that's what we're seeing right now. I think we're about halfway through the regular season. I may be tripping, but I believe we're halfway through the regular season. And these point battles are going to start tightening up. And, you want to get closer and closer to that ever so important cutoff line.
Without a doubt. So, right now, this top 18 looking pretty healthy as we get, we're at a point here in the season where we start to think about the playoffs. And, of course, the playoffs don't start until, the first week of September. And here we are just the third full week of June. And, that top 16 right now, John Wilco would be in, Dylan Banks would be out. The other thing to keep in mind is that there are provisions here in these league rules where, of course, you have to be in the top 30 in points and have your win to be able to leapfrog other people. As we take a peek at the standings, in fact, let's just look here. I see several drivers here that have a win. RJ Root would still technically qualify. Of course, he's starting to fall out of contention just because of, not running enough races. But Andrew Dyson has a pair of wins. And, of course, one of those came from Richmond, and the other, of course, last week at Sonoma. So it's a busy week here, and we're just getting into that salad bowl, everything tossed up in the air section of the season.
Well, you mentioned points. Nolan Hodgson's left Sonoma with the point lead after notching a top 5. But here's my thing. Nolan Hodgins from Lamar, Iowa, is going to be one of those drivers that's going to bring... He's going to bring the heat just a little bit more because this is technically a home track for him. So, therefore, Nolan Hodges is going to be the driver I watch out for tonight in that 12 car. Number 12, Brant Ford Mustang Dark Horse. And I got to tell you, I'm excited. The other driver I'm watching out for is Matt DiCiani. I got to run some laps with Convulsion Holt today and some official races. And these guys have been practicing. They're ready to get after it.
Yeah, and just about 15 seconds left in qualifying. The warm-up session going to be underway, so we're going to try to get a hold of Nolan Hodgson if he's here. Of course, right now it looks like he's going to go P3 as far as qualifying goes. Just a couple of drivers not even trying to go out. Randall Watkins having a pretty rough day there in qualifying trim. Let's see if we can get a hold of Nolan Hodgson. Hey, Nolan, it's Dave and Allen up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Hey, man, listen, kind of a home track for you. How far is Lamar's from Newton?
I think the time is around 4 hours and 50 minutes or something like that.
But it's still Iowa, so I guess we'll kind of call it your home track. It's the only, one of the Cup Series.
Yeah, I mean, it's technically Kansas is closer, but yeah, I live in Iowa, so we'll call Iowa my home track.
Well, listen, you just barely squeaked into that P1 position in the championship standings. We saw just a moment ago 1 point ahead of Kalamazoo, Michigan's Sean Rogers. What's going to be the strategy to try to stay up ahead of him tonight?
I mean, pretty much the same thing that I've been doing. Just trying to stay consistent and get the best finishes that I can. This track will go through a big transition phase when it transitions into night. So the plan is to be there when it turns to night. The nighttime is the right time after all. So just look to see where I am at the end of the race, and we'll see what we can do from there.
Without a doubt. Well, listen, man, good luck tonight as you get the 12 rolling here, and I just saw you disappear from my screen. It's not you, it's me. I clicked too fast, and my fat fingers did what fat fingers do. But listen, good luck tonight, and hey, listen, we expect to see you on that podium tonight.
Sounds good. I'll try my best.
All righty, and of course, next up here that we need to chat with as we send him back up to 4 Wide Motorsports is going to be Sean Rogers as we get a quick chance to chat with him wherever he may be here in the CSS chat. Hey, Sean, it's Dave and Alan up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you guys. How you doing?
Good, man. Listen, you come in tonight second in point standings. I mean, just literally 1 point behind Nolan Hodgson. How high do you need to turn the heat up to try to get ahead of Hodgson?
Yeah, I'm definitely gunning for that regular season championship. So, definitely something on my mind. Just try to finish well in the stages, and just got to beat him at the end, and hopefully that get me back to the top.
Yeah, I mean, patience is a thing that we've learned in this league is happening continually. How much does that come into factor here?
Yeah, you definitely have to be patient. These are long races, and you don't want to do anything stupid early to get damage on the car that's going to affect you throughout the rest of the race. So patience is definitely key, and being aggressive when you need to, and sitting back and maybe just riding a little bit. Just gotta kind of read the race.
All right, my man. Well, listen, good luck tonight. Congratulations on that P2 on the championship standings, and we'll see you on the other side.
Yep, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Going to send him back on up into CSS. Alan, this has been a pretty busy night so far, at least as far as qualifying. We have a chance now to take a peek at our qualifying results as we get these graphics off the screen. Next graphics underway, in case my hands weren't busy enough. But, here we are. Dylan Banks going to sit on the pole position tonight. He's going to be joined on the front row by Sean Rogers. Now, the interesting thing here is that, as we talked about, Sean Rogers now sits second position in our point standings in the 44. Amanda Price, of course, always cheering him on in the live chat. Right behind Rogers, starting on the inside of row 2, is going to be Nolan Hodgson. Do you think they're going to have the pitchforks and torches out tonight?
I think they are. So, look, we're in the middle of a cornfield. So they're going to have the pitchforks, the tractors, the lawn equipment, the farming equipment, whatever you got, bring it. And that's the thing, is you gotta bring it. I mean, Nolan Hodges, he's gonna be on 10, but Sean Rogers looking to gain that points lead, and I would be remiss if it's gonna take patience tonight. It's gonna be the name of the game.
Well, some of the other hot names here, and of course our starting lineup. Noah Hamilton, he's going to be starting the inside of row 4. Chris Davis is going to be rounding out the top 10. Cody McCorkle and Logan Giesbrecht from north of the border. We do have some international contestants tonight. Of course, the Australian Neil Pearson and Michael Caffrey. Logan Giesbrecht from north of the border up there in Canada. It's Canadian. Rafael Rodriguez also I mean, we've got, which to me, I mean, don't get me wrong, we talk about the World Wide Web. This is really a worldwide racing server, and it's something exciting to see, you know, especially those guys in Australia. They're already in tomorrow.
It's late at night over there. And, you know, so this is, in Australia, it's kind of like Monday Night NASCAR.
It basically is for them, as drivers have now completed the warm-up phase of their evening. Let's head on down here to pit road, as there they are getting ready to roll off. Dylan Banks going to sit on the inside pole position of row number 1, joined by Kalamazoo, Michigan's very own Sean Rogers. Nolan Hodgson out of Lamar's, Iowa. Callie H. ready to cheer him on, I'm sure. Going to sit on the inside of row number 2, joined by Eric Papineau out of Williamsburg, Virginia. Matt Long and Tanner Marty going to be featured in row 3, while Noah Hamilton out of Colorado Springs going to be starting on the inside of row number 4 alongside of Neil Pearson. Mark Johnston and Chris Davis in row 5 rounding out your starting top 10, with Seba Cornez and Ethan Eckert in row 6. Row 7 going to be Chad Sander and Anthony Savignano, with Paul Hill and Cody McCorkle in row number 8. Logan Giesbrecht from Rockwood, Ontario, going to start in row number 9 on the inside alongside his fellow international entrant Michael Caffrey from Perth, Australia in row number 9. Row 10 featuring Ron Fitting and Kavaja Holt, with Michael Witt and Chief Cook and Bottle Washer from Fairview, Tennessee, Chris Claude in row number 11. Chris Custer and Matt Mackin in row 12, with Bobby Anderson and Andrew Deemer in 13. Row 14 featuring Keith Long and Rafael Rodriguez, with Rich Jett, as we got to move the camera, and Steve Herring in row 15. John Wilco out of McAdoo, Pennsylvania, and his fellow Pennsylvanian Ken Ron going to be back in row 16, with Timothy Cook, Mr. 305 Randall Watkins out of Miami, Florida, and Richard Pruitt. That looks like Pruitt going to start from pit road, so Randall Watkins will be starting shotgun on the field. 34 drivers scheduled to take the start tonight. 350 total laps, the distance tonight scheduled. Alan, it's just about that time. I want to wish every father, of course, as it is Sunday, Father's Day. I want to wish all of you a happy Father's Day, and thank you for joining us tonight. I know that many of us had or have plans for the day, so we want to thank you for tuning in, making us a part of your evening here in prime time. As the iRacing.com pace car lights are out, we're getting ready, Alan, as we're just about to head down the back chute.
Yeah, down the back straightaway. Dylan Banks, Sean Rogers on that front row. And, you know, Dave, these guys are going to have to be extremely patient, as we got 350 laps, 350 miles to go here. It's a long ways to go, but nonetheless, these guys are itching and ready to go.
Dylan Banks with control of the field. He'll have Sean Rogers to the high side. The iRacing.com pace car coming out of turn number 4, making the hard left turn down pit road. The only thing that's left to do is it's time to wipe the visor and adjust the 5-point harness. Grandma, grab an ear of corn, butter, and settle in. Race fans, it's show time!
And that gets better every time as they fan out 3-4 wide. They're gonna have to be cautious. There's a lot of bumps in these corners, and it's short track racing that drives like a mile and a half.
You know, Alan, I know that you didn't know it, but I was creeping on you earlier today because I saw you were in the NIS server, and I happened in there as I was working on tonight's graphics in case I wouldn't have been available for tonight's race. So, you know, there I was poking around, and next thing you know, I see you decide that you're going to sit in there. So I had an opportunity to watch some of the strategy that goes on in this racetrack, and there is about, 6,000 different ways to boogie around this piece.
More than one way to skin a cat, right? But nonetheless,
everybody likes a good skinned cat.
Eric Papineau has set the fastest time of the race so far with that third 24.30, and he's riding back there in the third position. And the name of the game is going to be patience, and they're going to get strung out like a line of homeless guys at the methadone clinic.
A little bit of action here in the YouTube.com live chat as we work lap number 4. Fake supporter saying Paul is going to win. Redline Racing Network, that's my work wife, Matt Metler. He's here for the Allen experience, and Fake supporter said that you're a beast, and quite frankly, I believe it. And it also says that Metler here says, sorry he can't be with us tonight on the call, but, you know, he was basically warned and threatened with harm.
Yeah. Hey, look, you know, we all get in those situations. We're so thankful that our significant others let us do this week in and week out and hang out with the boys.
Without a doubt. Now, the question that has been on my mind all week long is, did we get to 4,000 subscribers on YouTube?
We did not.
I hate all of you. How close are we?
We are at 3.96. So it continues until we have 4K. The Sunday that we do it.
We need to get to 4,000 subscribers because this lunatic from St. Louis has never had the beautiful amber liquid from the hills of Pottsville, Pennsylvania. America's oldest brewery, known as Yuengling, formerly known as the Eagle Brewery or the DG Yuengling and Son Company.
So, smash those likes, hit those subscribe buttons, get those bells ringing, and enjoy Sunday Night NASCAR and the family of leagues here on Racers Elite. Or on SRM Racers Elite. Holy cow. Right now, we're watching Mark Johnson in that number 80 7-Eleven car. And he's working the outside there, the 59 car, Steve Cornez. And I think the Highline's going to start coming in here within pretty soon, but we're going to see these Dr. Feelgoods that started this run turn into Dr. Feelbads.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers aren't really sure where to run this yet as Johnston allows Seba Cornez to crawl back on by. Now Johnston looks to the inside here. All of a sudden, I went to Iowa and a race broke out between Mark Johnston and Seba Cornez as they haul it down the back chute, all but side by side. And getting ready to dance here is Paul Hill, of course, being charged on by Fake Supporter on YouTube.com. Paul Hill getting involved here. Let's ride along with him so we can see some of this. Sorry about that, folks. Fat fingers again on the old stream deck. But Paul Hill looking from behind here, and he's watching one heck of a battle brewing between Seba Cornez and Mark Johnston. Now, Seba Cornez gets around Paul Hill. Johnston now looking out the rear. This can't be a good feeling, quite frankly.
No, it can't be a good feeling. But here's the thing, though. Like I said, we're going to mention it. Patience. Patience is the word of the night. Got to be patient. You know, we've driven races here this week. Driven races here 2 weeks ago. And you don't want to overdrive the corner. We got a long ways to go and a short time to get there.
Now, I'm going to take your line from you. Seba Cornez right now doing what Seba Cornez does, or Seba Cornez type things. Seba right now crawling back up to where he had qualified in 11th position, getting around the 45 of Noah Hamilton. Here's the thing that we see from Seba week in and week out. An incredibly talented driver. I've raced side by side with him for a couple of years, and I'll tell you what, I love watching him do his thing because he drives the way that I wish I could. What happens, though, is he's going to cook the bejesus out of this equipment. He's basically got to get up here, get as far as he can ahead, and then try to maintain that positioning before everybody else starts to have some fall off. Because every week he just chews up these tires, makes them smooth and slick, and all of a sudden he can't gain any more positions.
Yeah, it's almost as if he, gets those really good runs at the start of the run and then just hits the roadblock and then bam, it's all over from there. And you can't do this at this racetrack. You have to be driving like you're on a cheese grater. It's very slick, it's hot and humid, and look, the Midwest is always hot and humid. And that humidity, Dave, we can bring up the weather one more time. It's the humidity. So the number I'm paying attention to is at 46%. That's the density of the air. The other number I'm paying attention to is at 99 degrees. That's that track temperature. And it's an 87 ambient air temperature. So it's hot and it's somewhat humid out. But that number right there, 99 degree track temp and that 45% relative humidity, that's what I'm concerned about.
Another concern right now is Noah Hamilton in the 45 now ceding away 12th position to Paul Hill, who's already climbed up 3 spots tonight. Noah Hamilton from Colorado Springs watching Hill start to drive away here. We see the Goodyear iRacing blimp above the field as they're just off to the right side of turn 1 and 2. As we haul it down into 2 and on exit, you can hear a nice smooth transition from coast to throttle. You know, Hamilton's not really trying to drive the rear end of this car off, which is exactly how you wind up getting yourself into a bad situation here at Iowa.
Yeah, so you almost want to wait until you're almost through the exit of the corner, as we're most mile and a half. You're right there in the center of the corner, you're just on the gas again. You almost want to get a very late exit, and that's going to prevent you from spinning those tires on that bump.
Mark Johnston here in the 80, down 7 positions after qualifying in 9th, running in 16th position. He's about to give it up here to Michael Caffrey. I'm sorry, in the 80. He's about to give it up to Michael Caffrey, who's a half second behind as he's watching Kavaja Holt drive away from him. It seems like the front of this pack is all nice and organized. Dylan Banks, Sean Rogers, and Eric Papineau, that top 3, they're only separated by about 0.6 of a second, now 7 from Hodgson here in 4th up through Banks. And all of a sudden, Hodgson looking to the high side here in a battle for 3rd position. All of a sudden, Nolan Hodgson just driving by with almost relative ease as, whoa, backing up just in front of Matt Long in the 97 out of Atlanta, Georgia, is Eric Papineau. And now Papineau in that Meineke number 17 machine lets the 97 of Matt Long on by.
Yeah, and so that's the other thing, too, is you just let the guy go. We got 350 laps. We're still, and 21 laps in. I mean, just let him go. You'll be there at the end. We're going to see a lot of comers and goers. And right now, Matt Long doing a great job of just holding his own. Eric Papineau not trying to force the issue. And then you got Neil Pearson back there, the driver from Perth, Western Australia. He's going to try to make a move on the outside of Eric Papineau, coming down to the tri-oval, and he's going to get that position pretty handedly.
Yeah, and you know, in the early goings of these races, especially here at the Cup level, I mean, you know, we've got 350 laps. Stage 1 going to end at the conclusion of lap number 70, and Stage 2 going to be much later at lap 210 with then 140 to the end. So, you know, for a lot of these drivers, they've got to kind of use this first stage to make some adjustments. They know that there's a scheduled pit stop coming up there at 70. Now, with 10 sets of tires, you can look for pit stops be, at least for tires, anywhere from 45 to 55, which at that point you might as well try to get yourself to 70 if you have the fuel to get there.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is the top 10 are essentially going to start going into conservation mode, and that's what you got to do. You got to be conservative. Go into conservation mode. Save. So that way you're there at the end.
Yeah, and these drivers do know how to get there at the end. I mean, you know, we've seen it. I mean, here we are, 25 laps in the books, no crises yet on the racetrack, which is exciting, especially after seeing what I did on Thursday night in the Racers Elite Cup Series. Of course, you were a part of that in the diarrhea machine. And, you know, here's the thing. There are some of these leagues that I get to see week in and week out. And, of course, I'll get to see the Gunners for Safety Rating Truck Series on Tuesday. Wait, is it trucks I'm doing on Tuesday?
Gen 6.
Gen 6, sure it is. But I'll get to see them on Tuesday. And a lot of these leagues pride themselves on safety. So when you have bad things pop out, like I saw on Thursday night, it's just so uncharacteristic. Last week, we were at a road course, and we saw the road course coming up and biting drivers that we almost never see that happening to. And right now, we see Kavaja Holt starting to drive away now from Ethan Eckert. Is Eckert going to work the high side here? We see Eckert having to obediently slide behind the master, Kavaja Holt, out of Waynesboro. And Kavaja, a long-time veteran here of the Sunday Night NASCAR Cup Series, brought to you by Stacy Strong and, of course, Trisha's Hope, which is right here on the front of the 00. And we will talk about Trisha's Hope later on this evening. In fact, let's take the opportunity to do so now. Trisha's Hope, of course, believes in health care and support for all persons. Their mission is to provide emotional and financial support to cancer patients in treatment. Trisha's Hope holds a special place in our hearts here at Sim Racing Media and in the Sunday Night NASCAR family of racing series, as Trisha's Hope has been a part of the supporting framework around Brian Tarnowski and his late wife, Stacy, for whom this league is named. They've been with Brian and Stacy throughout their journey and now beyond. And to support Trisha's Hope, please visit trishashope.com/give-help today, because tomorrow might not be soon enough.
It's a great organization, and I know Brian Tarnowski probably most likely does a great job with that. I wouldn't say most likely, he does do a great job with that and spreading awareness. You know, if there's something wrong, if you feel like there's something wrong with you, go get it checked out. Don't wait, don't hesitate.
I've been telling you for months that there's something wrong with you.
Well, so here, I want to address our 4K subs, right? I'm gonna up the ante. So we're gonna give it to the end of the regular season. We're at 4K at the end of the regular season. I'm drinking a Yangling. Now, we do not make it at the end of the season. At the end of the regular season, in September, we do not make that number. Old Dave Regal's gonna crack open an ice cold frosty Budweiser.
Yep, keep the trash can near me if I puke.
Oh boy.
I'm just saying, you know, there are certain things in this life that I've never thought that I would do, and that's one of them. So, folks, first caution, Ron Fitting going around. Perhaps Chris Claude involved. Let's see what happened here.
It's going.
As we go back to the replay screen, let's watch Ron Fitting in the 3 car. He's right here in the middle. There's Chris Custer. Chris Custer in front of him, and just collects him. Chris Claude, coming to a stop. Oof. Ron's not going to be happy with that one.
I mean, it looks like they were both just battling for the same piece of real estate.
Well, let's take a look at this again from Chris Custer's perspective. Here's Fitting on the high side. Fitting comes down, and just Custer was coming up, Fitting was coming down, they get together, and there it is. And you know what? They'll probably, when they go to race review later tonight, that'll probably be looked at as a racing deal. Oh, we're calling it a racing deal, and that's like, oh, geez, it's like a no-fault accident.
I mean, it's a byproduct of close quarter racing. So, I mean, there's really nothing anybody could have done differently. I mean, except for not touching cars, but I mean, it's short track racing. We're going to have a lot of bench sheet metal and hurt feelings.
That's incredibly accurate, as here we are, first caution of the night on lap number 35. Wholesale pit stops are underway, with the exception of Timothy Cook, who, for reasons I'm not quite sure of, has decided to stay out.
I think I made that strategy on Thursday.
You made it work somehow.
Until
you guys
it
that do
didn't.
that give me fits. I should be medicated. You know, here's the thing. You and I compared, I think I even said it on Thursday night. If I didn't say it live on air, I was thinking it live on air. As here comes Timothy Cook. He's taking his meds. That'll put Dylan Banks back up in the lead. You know, usually it's the 8 car of Alexander Gangler that I see try to stay out for reasons I'm not quite sure of. And he does it for, you know, positioning at the end of the stage. And it's paying off for him, you know, where he's picking up stage points week after week here in this league. But it's when somebody does it and they have no earthly business doing it that I scratch my head and thank bless his heart.
Okay, here's the reasoning behind me staying out in that race. I mispicked road. Okay, it's okay. We're only 10 laps in.
My whole thing was very simple. I saw everybody else come down pit road, and all of a sudden, you thought you were Larry McReynolds. And I'm like, oh, my God, what's he doing?
It'll be okay.
It's fine. It's fine.
Well, hey, Thursday night, I'm working up a paint scheme. I did the Waffle House one. I got to do one that's near and dear to your heart, and it might look like a certain team that you root for in Texas. That's not the Texas Rangers.
Then we'll leave it a secret.
There you go.
Because most of these people are concerned because I usually root for red pinstripes during the summer. I like to keep everybody guessing.
And like in the YouTube.com live chat, it says, "Hey boys."
Let's see who's on down here. I'm starting to get to know just about everybody in the... It's the work mistress, Shane Lake.
Shane Lake, the work mistress. Then that makes me the redheaded stepchild.
Well, if well, I'm going to hold it back. I'm just going to leave it alone.
All right. Well, nonetheless, we are, 38 laps in. The iRacing.com pace car has kept the field. The lights are out. And Dylan Bates and Sean Rogers are leading this field. Noah's Ark style 2x2. And we're going to see some more racing action as the iRacing.com live pace car works its way down the back straightaway. And right now we got Sean Rogers, Dylan Banks on the front row, Matt Long and Neil Pearson in that second row. And this is the top four that any league would love to have leading the races right now.
Dylan Banks leading us through turns 3 and 4 as he works his way just behind the iRacing.com pace car. Going to take a look here from his perspective. As the iRacing.com pace car dips on down there, we hit the Geico restart zone. He waits until just between the Geico logos, and off we go.
And, Dave, to your point, that's like a chess match in that restart box. Because some drivers will go late, and some drivers will go early, and it's all about anticipation.
Well, and it's got to be even more nerve-wracking for whoever starts on the outside or whoever's restarting in second position, because at that point, you don't want to have to sit there and be like, okay, is it now? Is it now? But it absolutely takes the immersion to another level.
Yeah, the only thing I wish iRacing would do on the NASCAR side is give the Cup Series cars stage breaks. As we got the Hamburglar, and that is the...
Yep, he's in the wrong number. That's supposed to be Anthony Savignano in the 90. As Savignano just laid down fast time of the race at 24.25 seconds. As we work lap number 41. 30 to go here in stage number 1. Dave Regal and Alan Bergen with you in the Tony Trapasso Memorial Broadcast booth. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back on Sim Racing Media. But don't go away. We're going to be NASCAR side by side.
Masker can't defend. He's got the outside line for the second part, and he can't hold on. Going the long way around. We're going to be 3 wide for the lead as they all come to the line. Who is going to take it in the end?
And here comes Lockwood. He's going to make the move to the
outside. Reynolds is trying everything. The kitchen sink is being thrown at it.
They're leaning on each other. Coming into turn number 3. It's going to be a drag race through 3 and 4. Coming back to the line. Here comes Trish on the bottom.
Richard's going to hold the inside. Tries to be the late breaker here. They're going to be side by side through the final chicane. They bang doors, but keep it clean.
As they're still 4 wide on the run down into the back straightaway. Demerit's looking for a line as well. What is going on in Michigan?
Novak into the fence. They're still beating and banging.
Oh my
and to the
goodness.
line.
He is much faster coming through there. Is there damage on Challenger? Abramitis is ahead. There's going to be a race to the line. Who is going to get it?
Welcome back to Newton, Iowa, where we're working lap number 47 with Dylan Banks at the helm as he leads the Stacy Strong Sunday Night NASCAR Cup Series tonight here on Sim Racing Media. Dave Regal and Alan Bergen with you here in the Tony Trapasso Memorial Broadcast booth. Matt Long running in P2 right now, up 3 from where he had started. Kalamazoo, Michigan, Sean Rogers running in 3rd. And Anthony Savignano up 10 slots after starting in 14th, running P4.
I mean, look, he's hamburgered his way up to the top 4, picked up 10 spots, and now he's going to work on Sean Rogers there in that number 44 car. So what an impressive run by Savignano.
I'm always impressed by what I see from Savignano, and, you know, it's like,
Whoa!
oh my.
What bit of driving there. Touched the right front to the left rear of Sean Rogers' car, and Sean Rogers saves it. What a save.
While we were away, we saw one little thing cross across our screens here on lap 43 from Noah Hamilton, as it looks like Hamilton actually, he didn't have a wreck. Oh, wait, maybe he did. Maybe we need to cue this up a little bit better. My mistake. Here's Noah Hamilton in the 45, just behind Johnston. Oh, he and Johnston make contact, but Hamilton gets shot down to the apron on the backstretch. And wow, look how close he was to coming, sideways onto the backstretch. That would have triggered the caution, but he stays pointed forward just enough to keep that ugly yellow flag from flying. Speaking of ugly and yellow, off air we were talking, you had mentioned about the Hamburglar before going to commercial. And I said that I didn't remember who the what the name of the yellow bird was. Of course, we know the Hamburglar and Mayor McCheese and Grimace and Officer Big Mac. But the bird, the duck-looking thing, is Birdie the Early Bird.
No, I did not know that.
I saw her on the things and on the packs of cookies when I was a kid, but beyond that, that was about it.
Well, here comes Nolan Hodges there. He's going to look and take that the fifth spot from Hamburglar and Anthony Savignano. As he's working to the inside, coming through the tri-oval. I don't think he has enough motor to get by him right now, or enough tires.
Well, I'm watching this battle, and all I can think of, for some reason, perhaps it's ad placement, but I'm loving it, as Nolan Hodgson is here harassing Anthony Savignano on lap number 54. 16 to go here in stage number 1. A little bit of a rub there from Savignano coming across the start-finish line, as he's got that car squatted down like a weightlifter running on lap 55.
Oh, for sure, but here comes Nolan Hodges. It's when you want to back off of Savignano and regroup and then get another run, and that's exactly what Nolan Hodges is doing. Nolan Hodges, I've pointed it out throughout the season. Nolan Hodges to me has great track awareness, and that's what you need in a league like this. Is great track awareness, and he's a very smart racer, and he's showing that here, and he showed it in Sonoma last week.
Nolan Hodgson over this season, as we pull up his beautiful driver information once again, Nolan Hodgson, no wins on the season, but 6 top 5s, 13 top 10s, with just 165 incident points, which makes his incidents per lap number down to .036. So what I say all that to say this, it's called being a safe driver. You know, over this season here, he's had basically 19 total starts, including, you know, our preseason. He has an average start at a short track like this of 7.3, an average finish of 6.5, and here he is running in 6th position. The numbers don't lie. You can make him say a lot of different things, but they never lie. You know, I mean, he's got 19 total starts with an average start overall of 9.9, an average finish of 7.5. I mean, this dude is out here getting it done week after week.
And that's what you got to do. It's all about consistency. And now he's just squeaked up to the top of the points. Hasn't won a race, but he's always been there. Always consistent. To me, either got to be consistently good or consistently bad. But he's been consistently good. And at the end of the day, he's still consistent.
Sean Rogers is the same way. I mean, you know, he runs P2 in the points. Wow, nearly making contact with the 62 is Nolan Hodgson. But, you know, Sean Rogers is the same way. 19 total starts, including the preseason. Average start of 10.9, average finish of 8.6. No wins on the season yet, but I mean, you know, this is a guy that week after week is putting the work in. You see a lot of practice hours that they log themselves. I mean, you know, from the moment that the green flag dropped at the LA Coliseum back in February all the way until tonight, I mean, both of these guys have put a ton of work in and put a great show on here on Sim Racing Media.
And that's what you got to do. You got to be willing to put the work in. And this league is all top split guys. Every one of them can go and compete in the Coca-Cola eNASCAR series, and every one of them could probably more than likely be contenders in that series for race wins week in and week out. So I mean, if you go look up their information, I bet their iRatings are into the 2,000 to 5,000 range.
I see smoke. I don't see where it's coming from. As we continue green flag action here with 8 to go in stage number 1. And you're certainly correct, Alan, that these drivers, any of these drivers, could go out and compete in the Coke Series. Whoa! Big wiggle out of the 11. That's Ethan Eckert. I don't think he was trying to hail a ship. I think he was trying to haul it in, as he just broke all kinds of loose coming out of turn number 4. We're going to see if he does it again. Ooh! No, he is all kinds of tight. And that's got to be dangerous. Wow, now he makes a little bit of contact with the 94. That's Chad Sanner. Ethan Eckert so tight that he can't keep it off the wall, and he's almost using the wall to rebound himself into the racing line.
You don't want to do that too many times because, you know, hurt that car and the aerodynamics. Granted, we're at a short track, but this track drives like 1.5 miles.
I don't know if he's trying to get our attention or what he's doing. It seems like he's definitely signaling SOS. I wouldn't be there if I was the 84.
Well, I mean,
Giesbrecht obviously didn't see the last 3 laps that Ethan Eckert was running.
I mean, he's from Chicago. He's from the second city, so.
So he's a little messed up. That's what you're saying. Let's watch him.
Sure.
I mean, look at this wheel. He's turning. He's almost at 9 o'clock.
Whoa!
Wow!
Oh, my goodness.
His hands are busier than a freshman at prom. Watch him step out of here. My God. They're all driving past him right now. This young man... You going to be all right there?
I'm good. It only took you 66 laps. You finally did it.
I wanted to wait tonight. I mean, right now, Ethan Eckert just hemorrhaged all the way back to 22nd. I mean, this dude right here, as he's desperately holding on, just needs to get through the next 2.5 laps.
If I was him, I'd be backing up the corners and almost getting back on the gas. Not even almost to the pit wall to get back on the gas. I mean, he's going to be really slow, but he's going to make it to the end of the stage at least.
Oh, he'll get to the end of the stage. Whoa!
Oh,
No, he won't!
And he just stuffed it in the wall.
Remember that time you said that he'd get to the end of the stage? That was a good time. What, 3.5 seconds before? I don't know what's going on with the 11 car right now, folks, but Ethan Eckert has a handful
If I was Ethan Eckert, I would be on the radio to the crew chief.
He's got a handful like a seismologist at Victoria's Secret.
Well, the 10th car in line is going to trigger the caution, so that would be Seba Cornez. When Seba Cornez comes around,
Cornez getting ready to come around. It's at the conclusion of lap number 70, so we're watching Seba. He's got about a half a lap to go, does Eckert, to get through. He's a quarter lap behind Seba Cornez. There's a lot of traffic between them, but here on 71, Seba Cornez going to roll off of turn 4, crossing the start-finish line, and that should trigger the caution. There it is. And avoiding calamity is Ethan Eckert in the 11. Your Stage 1 winner going to be Dylan Banks. Right here, they've got to catch the pace car out of Lillington. Matt Long, Sean Rogers, Neil Pearson, Nolan Hodgson, Paul Hill, Chris Davis, Anthony Savignano, Kavaja Holt, and Seba Cornez round out your top 10. They'll all be awarded stage points. Of course, the way that those stage points are broken down here in the SNN Cup Series is just like in real life. 10 points to the leader, 10 points to Gryffindor, 9 points to second, 8 for third, and so on, down to 1 stage point for 10th position at the end of the stage. So Dylan Banks, congratulations on that stage win. In a few moments after they complete their pit stops, because I've had my fingers smacked enough times, I'm going to wait for him, as that'll give me enough time to find him after their pit stops. But here comes Dylan Banks leading the pack onto pit road.
And wholesale pit stops, like you just said. This is a tricky pit road to get down, especially when you're under green flag conditions. But a lot of these guys are glad to see the stage come to an end, especially one in that number 11 car. That would, he's excited. Ethan Eckert is thanking the good Lord above that he just got that he only got a little bit of front end damage.
Dylan Banks sliding onto pit road now. He's going to take all 4 tires, drop the right sides, are waiting for the left to come on. We look out the rear here. He can see Sean Rogers sitting behind him as the left side of the car goes up. Now all of a sudden out of the DCR stable, Dylan Banks leads the race off of pit road. Hey Dylan, it's Dave up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
What's up, Dave?
Hey man, listen, congratulations on the old stage 1 win here tonight. We were watching Ethan Eckert toward the end of the stage because it looked like he had a handful of car to try to hold on to. What are you feeling here on the racetrack tonight, and what kind of conditions are you experiencing?
Honestly, Dave, feeling really good. Feeling balanced. Never really loose, never really tight. Maybe slightly loose, but it's very manageable, to say the least. So, EPI did a great job with this set this week, and can't give them enough thanks.
So you're saying that your car is the perfect woman?
Oh,
See what I did there? That's called marketing.
Nothing's perfect, but it's damn close to it.
That's fair. Listen, you don't want... Never mind. We're not going to go there and draw more attention to it. But listen, man, you've got Sean Rogers and Nolan Hodgson behind you. Those two guys are battling it out for top spot on the point standings. I mean, tonight, you come in here a little bit different, but, what's going to be your strategy the rest of the season here? As, of course, we've got a long time until the playoffs.
Honestly, I know I've missed the last 2 weeks due to family reasons. But honestly, staying consistent is my biggest key. If I stay consistent, run up top 10, top 5 every night, no matter, even if it's not a win, just being consistent and being there at the end, that's what really matters. Especially the way the points work and everything. You slip up one race, and you're going down a couple spots in the rankings. So yeah, it's all about consistency, man.
Yeah, we've seen that time and time again. I mean, you sit 17th in the points right now. But 3 top 5s and 5 top 10s. I mean, and every time you get behind the wheel, it just seems like, you're getting stronger and stronger. Now, you haven't been out since North Wilkesboro, and I know that you said that was for family reasons. But, you can't be upset at all with your performances this season. An average start of 5.5, average finish of 11.1. I mean, dude, you're raking it in.
Yes, sir. Just grateful to be here, and grateful for the DGR guys. They help me every week. But yeah, staying consistent it's awesome. It feels good to be running up in the top 5, top 10 every night. That's what I strive to do, no matter if it's a win or not. Just being there at the end. That's all that matters to me.
All right, buddy. Listen, good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you, sir.
Well, we might get a chance to talk to him if he goes ahead and sweeps the first 2 stages here tonight. That's Dylan Banks out of Lillington. And you ever been to Lillington, Alan?
I have not. Don't you know where Lillington
Lillington's
is?
a good town.
I imagine that's in Pennsylvania.
No, buddy, it's, I guess you never watched The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson?
I don't want to name drop, but I got a family member who is a niece to him.
All right, long story short, that was a bit that he and Jeff did on The Late Late Show for years. You ever been to so-and-so? No.
Nice. Well, I can tell you what, though. Dylan Banks and Sean Rogers are going to lead the field back through the Geico Restart Zone side-by-side Noah's Ark style here in lap 76. And here we go. Back to the chess match as the iRacing.com pace car pulls off, makes a left turn through the Geico Restart Zone, and we are back green flag racing here in the Hawkeye State.
Stage 2 getting underway with relative ease as Dylan Banks getting away from Nolan Hodgson and Sean Rogers as they chase him almost like he owes them lunch money. And I'm not sure who it's going to be, but listen, on the side here of Nolan Hodgson, I don't know if you can see it clearly at home without me doing this, but Nolan Hodgson actually has a little bit of Iowa corn there baked into the number of that 12. So he's ready to sit here and start shucking corn on lap 78.
Kind of like my diarrhea machine where I had the Waffle House menus in the number.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, of course, my esteemed broadcast partner, Alan here, he spent Thursday night driving a Waffle House car. And don't get me wrong, it was a beautiful paint job, it was, but it just brought back some really bad memories because I don't think I've ever eaten Waffle House without having some type of gastric distress afterward.
I mean, so what? Okay, what's the perfect drunk food?
Pancakes from Denny's.
Fair. I don't know if you guys have White Castle out there in Pennsylvania, but we got White Castle here in St. Louis.
We have exactly one White Castle in Pennsylvania. It is in Whitehall, Pennsylvania, just outside of Allentown in the Lehigh Valley. And it's good. It is. The first White Castle I was ever at was in Toms River, New Jersey, right along Route 9. And we were there, and it was late, and we were dumb. We drove because it was before the White Castle in Whitehall opened. And we drove from just outside of Reading all the way to New Jersey for a 30-pack of White Castle burgers.
It sounds like you guys recreated Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle.
No, it was Drew, Dave, and Justin out because we were bored, and it was. Here's the deal: at the time, my friend Drew and I worked third shift, and we're sitting around like two crows on a wall. I'm kind of bored. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? We were wide awake, and it was the middle of the night. So we kind of kidnapped Justin, and we kind of drove to New Jersey. And then after leaving there, we drove to Atlantic City because that's what you do, I guess. And it was just a good night. It was three guys doing what three guys do, dumb stuff.
Well, I tell you what, Paul, Anderson, yeah. Paul Hill and Anthony Saviano is trying to, will their cars up there, but Bobby Anderson there is doing Bobby Anderson things. He's coming up to the field pretty good too. As we're on board with Anthony Saviano, he's battling for P6 right there, and that is Neil Pearson making contact with that Busch car.
Well, and all of a sudden right now, Paul Hill and the 58 of Neil Pearson have found some kind of speed here on the high side. Now, it had Savignano trapped at the bottom, so maybe that was part of the problem, how they were so easily able to get by Savignano. From a strategic standpoint, if you can try to get side by side with somebody and take that high line away from them, they're not able to swing out and use as much of that momentum to get themselves out to the wall. When you can swing out here to the wall, this is where you take all of that momentum and build that speed coming into the next turn. So if you can do just like Paul Hill did and Anthony Savignano ultimately and take that away from Paul Hill and Neil Pearson. And you can do that to somebody as talented as Anthony Savignano. You can really make some hay here at Iowa. Michael Caffrey back here in the 54. He's just ahead of Chad Sander in the 94, as now they run 11th and 12th position right now, and side by side they go. That's the 78 of Cody McCorkle running the high side, doing exactly what I was just saying, as he's going to work his way on by Eric Papineau in the 17.
Yeah, Cody McCorkle doing Cody McCorkle things and working his way up to the field, and he's getting ready to go to work on that number 94 car of Chad Sander and the number 54 of Michael Caffrey. And I wanted to give a shout out to Neil Pearson and drivers like that, Michael Caffrey, as down in Australia they're equivalent to road racing. That's usually their background. They come up here to the States, race with these guys from the U.S., and they do primarily oval racing, and they hold their own. So we got 3 wide action here. Wow. It's Eric Papineau and Michael Witt there going 3 wide with Cody McCorkle.
Checking in here on the YouTube.com live chat, Callie H., as I said earlier tonight, here she is cheering on Nolan Hodgson, racing the home track in Iowa for the number 12. Chris Custer and Paul Hill being cheered on by Ryan Fisher out of Richmond, Virginia. Brandon Bike cheering on Sean Rogers and Chris Davis, while PDS International says that the 60 car was undrivable. Wrong setup picked by accident, and that is just this side of depressing. How many times have you gotten in there and you know that you can try to make some type of an adjustment, but there's nothing that you can do on the fly to try to make a car drivable if you have the qualify set up in?
Oh man, look, you're just hanging on for dear life. Usually on the asphalt side, the qualify. Whoa, hello, hey buddy, you're not supposed to do that. It's difficult. It really is. And I mean, you're just hanging on for dear life. There's no way you're going to drive a qualifying setup that's 100% taped 70 laps. There's no way you cannot do it. It'll blow up before you get halfway through the stage.
Well, and we can see that with a lot of these drivers. I mean, like I said, you can make some adjustments in the car to try to tighten it back up. But obviously, Rafael Rodriguez, PDS International, as they go 3 wide there, that's Ken Ron in the middle. Oh my, we're having some fun now. Ken Ron holding on, trying to figure out where to put the 33 at this point. He doesn't want to back out and give any kind of room here. But my God, he's got to go side by side with the 45. And he's still side by side with Johnston on the low side, making contact and bouncing just perilously up to the 45. And of course, now I have the hiccups. Oh, that's lovely.
That's where you got to back out. You don't want to push the envelope, but I feel like that if Ken Ron was holding up Rich Jett and Mark Johnson in the 45 car of Noah Hamilton Jr. or Noah Hamilton, is they were forced to go 3 wide.
Yeah, and you don't want to sit there and be that guy that's going to hold everybody up. I mean, at some level, you have to, hold your ground, but at another level, you basically have to just be like, you know what? This is not my fight for this moment, especially on lap 95, working your way all the way toward lap 210. There's still 115 laps here in Stage 2. This is kind of an interesting race because a lot of times we would have seen, Stage 1 at 70, Stage 2 at 140, and then all the way that 110 laps to the end. And instead, this is almost a little bit different where it'll be 140 laps to the end. That doesn't make sense. That math doesn't math. That kind of meths.
Well, I mean, are we doing St. Louis math tonight?
I don't know what we're doing, but now I'm going to check the math because none of this makes sense to me.
Well, I tell you what does make sense, and that's Ken Ron trying to get around Rich Jett there in that Godzilla car. Oh boy, here we go. Some kind of fun right now. Ken Ron working the inside.
So actually what it is kind of an inversion to what we generally see in the Cup Series. We had 70 laps in that first stage and then 2 stages of 140 laps apiece to get to that 350. Usually we see 70, 70, and then the rest, but instead this time it's going to be 70, 140, 140.
Yeah, and then so now you got Ken Ron working the inside of the 62 car, John Wilco, and he's got a whole gaggle of car up in front of him. Which got Rich Jett, Mark Johnson up there in that 7-Eleven car. Almost to lap 100. We've almost made the century mark. Oh boy, we're gonna have fun here. You don't want to be the 62 car. You definitely don't want to be Rich Jett right now. Rich Jett going to go to the high side, and cannot get clear of the 77 car. Rich Jett.
Ken Ron is just holding on for dear life. Now, that's a pair of Pennsylvanians going at it there. The double natural of Rich Jett and the 33 of Ken Ron. Ken Ron, of course, out of Dillsburg, Pennsylvania. Rich Jett from, Schwanksville, Pennsylvania. The other Pennsylvania driver tonight out of McAdoo, Pennsylvania is John Wilco here in the 62. And of all the places to be from, you got to be from McAdoo. It's definitely a place that it's fine to be from, but maybe being there is not so great.
I've never been to McAdoo.
Most people haven't. It's not exactly on Pennsylvania's you have to visit here list of towns. However, there was a bank robbery there a couple of weeks ago. I got to read about it on the news. And that was exciting. A bank robbery in the middle of nowhere. Might as well have been Woody and Buzz out there protecting Bo Peep's sheep.
Woody and Buzz. Woody and Buzz. Well, I tell you what, Dylan Banks is doing Dylan Banks things. And he's trying to get Sean Rogers trying to get that 44 car up there in the front in the lead so he can do Sean Rogers things.
We're going to ride along with Sean Rogers now here on lap number 104. We're on our way toward lap 210 as we ride along with the pride of Kalamazoo, Michigan. Rogers not really I don't want to say he's trying to find a way to get around Dylan Banks. He's kind of happy being back here. We know that only because he and Nolan Hodgson have not changed positions with Dylan Banks since the drop of the green flag. 105 laps in the books right now for Dylan Banks as he still leads us on the racetrack. Several battles starting to break out now as we look back here to Noah Hamilton. And Hamilton just got around Rich Jett in the 77. He's found some speed that was locked up here on the high side as we work lap 105. Now it seems like Hamilton is going to stay up there and allow Rich Jett to try to work underneath him.
Yeah, so Rich Jett right there in that 77 car. Whoa, we got a car into the wall, and that would be the number 78, I believe.
That's
an orange car.
Of Cody McCorkle. In fact, let's take a run back and see what happened there because McCorkle definitely bit some wall coming out of turn 4. We see this so often at Iowa. You come out of 4, the car is tight as a drum, and here he is, just a bang and smoke but no fire as he continues to run here on 107.
107, Cody McCorkle going to gather his thoughts, and, the rest is history.
Watching the 88 of Michael Witt in that blue and gold Chevrolet Camaro just ahead of Michael Caffrey from north of the border. Witt now trying to chase down Kavaja Holt, and right now between he and Kavaja Holt is about 0.3 of a second. He's still got quite a distance to go up until he hits the leader, about 7.2 seconds to the leader. So he's got a long time, does Sanner here in the 94, and all of a sudden they're starting to look here at the rear bumper of Kavaja Holt. As we look on from Kavaja Holt, he can see Eric Papineau behind him. Kavaja up 9 positions, Papineau down 8 positions. So something obviously wrong with the 17 as he's not able to hold it together here as we ride. Looks like he's got that Meineke Chevrolet doing as much as he can, trying to get it down here, but not able to hold that yellow line as long as Kavaja Holt.
Yeah, so that's the other thing, too, is you got to be... I don't know what's going on with that 17 car, but he's definitely going to need some Meineke work after this race. or at the end of the stage.
Dylan Banks, your race leader. He's going to be followed by Sean Rogers, Nolan Hodgson, Matt Long out of Atlanta, Georgia, Neil Pearson and Chris Davis in 5th and 6th, with Paul Hill running in 7th, Anthony Savignano in 8th, with Tanner Marty and Bobby Anderson rounding out your top 10. Right now, if the stage ended, we're 100 laps away from the stage end, but if the stage ended now, Bobby Anderson would get that 1 stage point for capturing 10th position. Right now, though, he's up 15 spots from where he had qualified back in 25th. So a long night ahead of him is Bobby Anderson as we work lap 112. Dylan Banks still leading Sean Rogers. We were taking a peek earlier. Now, Michael Witt here in the 88, he's been with us all season long. He's doing a great job boogieing around this racetrack tonight. And, you know, all things considered, many of these drivers, you know, I don't think that they get enough time, you know, or enough exposure. I mean, Mike Witt right now running in 10th position in our point standings. He's got 19 total starts, so he has not missed a single event, including, of course, our opening events there in Los Angeles, and of course the duels at Daytona. The interesting thing about Witt is that he hasn't really, I don't want to say slid backwards, he's only crawled upwards. An average start of 16.7, an average finish of 11.1. So he's gaining every week as far as how to get around. And the caution comes out as the 90 of Anthony Savignano goes around. Let's see what's going on with Savignano as he is parked back here on the backstretch. He's now going to get himself going. Let's see what happened just before this came out. There's Savignano running all by his lonesome here, maybe toward the end of this tire run, and he starts to get a little sideways, dirt tracking his way out of 2 and onto the backstretch. Everybody playing. There's Matt Mackin playing the avoiding game as Savignano backs it carefully onto the apron and stays out of the line of fire. This caution's going to trigger wholesale pit stops as Dylan Banks going to lead everybody down once again. Sean Rogers running P2. We're going to ride along with Sean Rogers this time as he comes down just behind Dylan Banks. Now they're going to go in those 1 and 2 pit stalls as Banks gets around this turn. You know, the first probably 5 or 6 pit stalls is actually into the difference between turns 1 and 2 as Sean Rogers brings it to a nice peaceful rest here. We pop the right sides up and go for that 4-tire stop here on lap 116.
Yeah, I got you guys. How you doing?
Hey, man, listen, it's been an interesting night so far. How's the 44 feeling, and what's the strategy move here? Because stage 2 and 3 are actually longer than stage 1, which is usually flip-flopped, at least for stage 2. You've got 140 laps to this stage. What are you doing to keep yourself calm and collected here in a long stage?
I'm just minding, taking care of my equipment. I was prepared to go the long run there, so I was just kind of hanging out behind Dylan here, not trying to push the matter. But now it looks like we're going to have to go about 90 laps if we can go green the whole way. So it's just going to be about managing the tires, not getting too aggressive early.
Now, what are all of you guys getting for a tank of fuel?
Fuel hasn't really been a too big of an issue. It's looking like I got 114 laps right now, so we are good to go the full 90 on fuel. So it's definitely going to be about taking care of the tires.
Well, I know that you and Nolan are very good at saving the tires. I haven't seen Dylan have to go on a long run this season like this, so I'm going to be curious to see what all three of you do, because none of the three of you have really exchanged positions up here atop the pile. Matt Long out of Atlanta, he's one of those tire guys, so I'm curious to see what you guys, what you three at the front of the field have to do to hold off Matt Long and, of course, your teammate, Chris Davis.
Yeah, like I said, it's just, being easy early, not lighting them up quick, and, that's kind of why I haven't really put too much pressure on Dylan. I probably could have, at least got beside him and we could have had a battle, but it's not worth it at this stage. Just, driving conservative and keep the tires happy and keep them under you.
All right, buddy. Well, listen, congratulations on running P2 for the time being. Good luck the rest of the way, and hopefully we're going to see you here at the end of one of these stages. And if not, at least we know where to find you, that's for sure.
Well, hopefully you can catch me in first at the end of the last one.
My man. All right, brother. Good luck.
Yep, see ya.
That the voice of Kalamazoo, Michigan's very own Sean Rogers running P2 right now, being cheered on by Amanda Price as we get ready to go back green flag racing. Looks like we're going to have about another lap of parade here under caution. When we go back green flag racing, it's going to be Dylan Banks, Sean Rogers, and Nolan Hodgson, your top 3. Matt Long and Chris Davis make up your top 5, with Neil Pearson, Paul Hill, Tanner Marty, Bobby Anderson, and Kavaja Holt your top 10. Want to thank everybody for tuning into the YouTube.com live chat tonight. FGD 5604, how come DeCiani, Heitman, and Patrick Gitter don't race anymore? I haven't seen them. You know what? I'm going to have to reach out to them and find out where they are, because they're giving up valuable positions here in our point standings. Of course, Gail Ream cheering on Nolan Hodgson, while Ryan Smith congratulating Eric Papineau as his daughter just graduated high school. Hey, that's a good thing to be excited about. We're going to talk to Eric Papineau about that a little bit later, that's for sure, as he gets ready to rock and roll here. So we'll be able to give a nice shout out to Eric Papineau's daughter for graduating high school, as it is that time of year. Green flag racing once again here at Iowa Speedway. Dylan Banks with control of the field. They quickly go single file behind him. Sean Rogers telling us that they've got about 114 laps of fuel in these cars. And, you know, to many of these drivers, that's not a bad thing. Kavaja Holt trying to hold off the 18 of Bobby Anderson, who's now they're going to battle it out for that 9th position, as it looks like Anderson wants it bad, but Kavaja wants it more in the Tricia's Hope 00 Ford Mustang, as they go all but side by side. Let's ride along here with Bobby Anderson from the gyro cam. I'm sorry, from the cockpit cam, my goodness. As we ride along with Anderson, we can see all of the traffic in and around him as he's trying to hold this wheel down and keep the car as close to that yellow. Whoa, here he goes as he dirt tracks his way. That's going to cost him 1, 2, 3, at least 3 positions now. 4 as Seba Cornez crawls on by. So Bobby Anderson starts 25th and now runs P12, as hopefully that wasn't him looking over at his phone or his television, watching himself on TV. And speaking of which, we want to thank everybody for joining us tonight in the YouTube.com live chat. Thank you for welcoming us into your homes, onto your phones, as I know my little boy is watching. Hey, Bubba, Daddy loves you. I'm glad that we had a good weekend together. Of course, Father's Day weekend. We want to wish everybody a happy Father's Day and tip our cap to all of you who stepped away from the fam for the evening to be part of this event tonight. As they are 3 wide, let's watch the 77 of Rich Jett from above. My God, as he is going to be holding on tight. The 66 of Chris Custer now shooting underneath Eric Papineau. Papineau almost making contact with the 66. Gives him almost a bump draft to send him down the front stretch. Now the 90 of Anthony Savignano starting to crawl back up further through the field. We watch the 66 of Chris Custer just behind Bobby Anderson now, who, as we had mentioned a moment ago, got loose and wound up sliding back into 12th position. Now Chris Custer gets ready to look to the rear, that left rear quarter panel, to get underneath Anderson. So Anderson obviously battling something rough here with the 18 as we work lap 126. "126 laps in the books, and this is nothing but a disaster waiting to happen here in the mid to rear of the field. Right around 15th position, we can see from high above in our blimp cam, that's Anthony Savignano in that 45 being scored as the 90. just ahead of the 17 and the 18. All of a sudden, this is kind of like an old Jack Roush and Joe Gibbs race day here with those cars out here on the track. The double natural of Rich Jett and the 33 of Ken Ron getting ready to do the old Pennsylvania Polka two-step here as we come through the front stretch. All of a sudden, these 5 cars vying for that position held by the 17 of Eric Papineau as this battle for 16th is just heating up like crazy. Meanwhile, Anthony Savignano, a pair of 45s dueling it out here. The 45 with the Hamburglar on it. He's now going to slide ahead of the real 45. Will the real driver, the number 45, please stand up as we work here on lap 129. They haven't figured this one out just yet. Kavaja Holt right now, he's running in a 9th position. He's finally gotten ahead of Seba Cornez. And for a long time in this league, Kavaja and Seba ran so close to one another. And we're starting to see that that old rivalry rekindle the flame there as Kavaja has now won the battle for the time being. But the war far from over as we're still just about, 80 laps to go here in stage number 2. The 29 of Tanner Marty trying to take a little bit of momentum away and gets down onto the apron. That's going to kind of upset his car. That does throw him right in front of Savignano in the 45. Now it shoots Marty up to the high side of the racetrack. He's got to now recover all of that momentum that he had built into the 29, while Bobby Anderson still working just alongside of Timothy Cook in the 09 Red Bull machine. If you haven't done so already tonight, make sure that you subscribe to Sim Racing Media. Turn on those bell notifications as we'll talk about when we come back from the break and when Alan Bergen gets back from dinner. We do want to make sure that we highlight why we need everybody to be subscribing to Sim Racing Media, as basically we've got a bet going on that we need you, the fans, to settle out. We need to hit that 4,000 subscriber mark here on YouTube.com. It's free, so why don't you? It's not going to kill you. It's not going to sell you insurance, or it's not going to try to sell you a timeshare plan in Atlantic City. It's just to get you to see a little bit more racing week in and week out, and of course, it will also get either Alan Bergen to finally come to Jesus and have a bottle of Pottsville, Pennsylvania's finest golden beverage, Yingling, or for me to drink what I quite frankly associate with urine, which of course is made by Anheuser-Busch from the city that Alan Bergen is from. So, folks, we've got a lot going on tonight here. I'm Dave Regal. He is Alan Bergen. When we come back, we'll see the rest of stage number 2 here from Iowa Speedway.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
later. Basket can't defend. He's got the outside line for the second part, and he can't hold on.
Going the long way around. We're going to be 3 wide for the lead as they all come to the line. Who is going to take it in the end?
And here comes Lockwood. He's going to make the move to the outside. Quinn tries to force him off a little bit, but there he goes. It's going to be side by side through turn 1.
Will he be able to cover him off? He does. Weaving back to the left-hand side. Reynolds is trying everything. The kitchen sink is being thrown at it. They're leaning on each other. Coming into turn number 3. It's going to be a drag race through 3 and 4. Coming back to the line. Here comes Frisch on the bottom.
Bouchard's going to hold the inside. Tries to be the late breaker here. They're going to be side by side through the final chicane. They bang doors, but keep it clean.
As they're still 4 wide on the run down into the back straightaway. Demerit's looking for a line as well. What is going on in Michigan?
Novak into the fence. They're still beating and banging.
Oh my
and to the line.
He is much faster coming through there. Is there damage on Challenger? Abramitis is ahead. There's going to be a race to the line. Who is going to get it?
Welcome back to Iowa Speedway. Dave Regal here in the Tony Trapasso Memorial Broadcast booth with you, working lap 143 as Dylan Banks has become the Pied Piper of the Hawkeye State. He and Sean Rogers starting to gap Nolan Hodgson now by about 7/10 of a second, a full second between Banks and Hodgson. Sean Rogers was talking about saving the tires earlier. He's starting to have some success with that. We're seeing that as we can see Rogers closing in on Dylan Banks ever so quietly here, about 2/10 of a second behind them now, or between them now, and about 1.2 seconds between Rogers and Hodgson. So Rogers has really thrown it on here as we've got about 65 laps to go in stage number 2. As we get ourselves all settled in here, I want to thank everybody for tuning into the youtube.com live chat. If you haven't done so already, why haven't you? Make sure that you turn on those bell notifications and subscribe to Sim Racing Media. We've got 6 nights of racing right now on SRM. And believe me, there is a little something for everybody amongst all of our shows. Of course, as we go and check what is on this week. Of course, tonight, here we are in prime time. The only game on TV, quite frankly, and it's the only thing worthwhile watching, is the Sunday Night NASCAR Cup Series. Then Monday night is, of course, going to be me back here with the Xfinity Series at 7:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Alan, my esteemed broadcast partner, and Daniel Paulus Jr. are going to be calling the SCL Series at 9 Eastern. Then Tuesday, of course, the Truck Series is off, but yours truly will be on the Gunners for Safety rating call, while the Racers Elite Series is going to be live at 7:35 Eastern with John and Rick, and then the WSRL going to be the nightcap at 10:20 p.m. Eastern Time with Mike and Alan once again. Wednesday night brings the Roughnecks Series. Angel and Alan will be on that call with Racers Elite going to be at 7:30 on a Wednesday night. And then the Extreme Cup Series at 9 p.m. on Wednesday with Liam and Jordan. Thursday, I return once again to the microphone with Daniel Paulus Jr. as we call the Racers Elite Cup Series. We're just getting ready to start week number 2 as the second season of 2024 has gotten underway after a great race at Daytona this past Thursday. So we look ready and we look forward to seeing everybody tuning in to the Sim Racing Media airwaves all week long.
Back.
And better than ever, are you, sir?
Well, hey, look, it looks like I didn't miss much according to live timing and scoring, as Dylan Banks is still doing Dylan Banks things, and Sean Rogers and Nolan Hodgson is right there under his tail, and now it looks like we're seeing what we saw earlier, last week in Racers Elite, and in other leagues that have run this track, is we're getting single filed out, and that's what this track. That's what you got to do to survive on this racetrack. So, therefore, as we see Sean Rogers, and there's a car up the hill. It's very off the pace. That's a U.S. Army car, and I'm not. That's Andrew Deemer, and that U.S. Army car. He's definitely off the pace, but back here at the ranch as Andrew Deemer is just essentially a rolling roadblock at this point.
Anthony Savignano getting ready to cut underneath Seba Cornez here. Seba's been trying to hold on to this 9th position for a very long time, as we're just about 60 to go here in stage number 2. Anthony Savignano now digging underneath him. What's interesting, though, is that these drivers that have that high side have somewhat of an advantage because they can carry more speed on the high line, as it makes the racetrack just a little longer. And it also cuts off the exit of the driver below them. Now, right now, Savignano, with a great entry into turn 1, is able to roll out and basically throw an unintentional block in front of Seba Cornez as he gets back into the racing groove. Now Savignano starts to set sail as he's ready to haul it on down here toward Seba Cornez, toward Kavaja Holt.
Watching that battle with Anthony Savignano and Seba Cornez, it's almost like those two cannot get away from each other. Every time we watch that battle, every time we see those two cars, they're somewhere in the same vicinity of each other. As we've seen Anthony Savignano tag the wall there.
Yeah, Savignano leaving his mark here on Iowa Speedway on lap 156. I mean, we see it all the time in different racetracks. Now, I was saying earlier that Seba Cornez and Kavaja Holt were almost always around one another back in the day. As John Wilco is coming onto pit lane, Andrew Deemer showing himself has crashed, so we're going to quick see what happened with him. Perhaps that was just John Wilco trying to avoid Andrew Deemer as we go back here. Here's Deemer in the 38, and you had mentioned earlier that he was having a rough go of it, and here he is getting way loose on pit exit, nearly taking out the blue cone. And apparently, John Wilco, this was completely unrelated.
Yeah, that's a tough break. His night just went bad. Just went from bad to worse. But here is the New Balance car. That's the 62 of John Wilco. He looks like he's going to
New Balance, more like needs balance to get himself onto pit road.
Is that a dad car?
He's definitely wearing white socks right now. John Wilco making a possibly scheduled stop here on lap 159, comes out of pit road. And, it's a situation where he thought that he had it, and he didn't have it.
I mean, or he had it until he didn't have it, and lap 160, nonetheless, is going to start being worked here just a minute as Dylan Banks continues to do Dylan Banks things. It's all that complete domination. So there are 26 cars on the lead lap right now, and Andrew Deemer listed as crashed again on live timing and scoring twice again. Oh man.
Let's see what happened with Andrew Deemer this time as we take a look at him. Hopefully this isn't going to be the same situation, but the front end of the 38 is all kinds of, look, same way. Same place. Oh. Just nosing himself into that not-so-safer barrier on the inside of the back stretch here.
At this point, I would be remiss to probably put it on the hauler and just stop the bleeding.
At least it gets you to the beer stand first.
Well, I mean, look, it looks like Richard Pruitt did that, but he might be race control.
Dylan Banks here in the 70 car working lap 162. We've got a long way still to the end of stage number 2, all but 50 laps, in fact 47 to be specific as we cross the line. Banks, Rogers, and Hodgson still have not exchanged positions whatsoever. Now, Rogers said that he had 114 laps to the good, so he can get himself to about lap 230, which puts him at the end of stage number 2. The question is, do the tires hold out? And the answer is probably not.
Yeah, look, the Dr. Feelgoods will be Dr. Feelbads by the time we get to end of stage 2. And these guys will definitely want a pit stop to get some fresh shoes on those race cars.
Yeah, 48 laps here on the top 10 for every driver. And listen, to me, that is just a thing of beauty. I mean, to be able to stretch it out so far, it looks like if everybody took tires each time, and I'm sure that they did, you're looking at still having 6 sets of tires for the remainder of this race. You've got plenty of Dr. Feelgoods. Now it's a matter of, can you outlast the driver in front of you? Does Sean Rogers have what it takes to outlast Dylan Banks and try to swap positions during a pit cycle? The answer is almost always going to be more than likely not.
Well, yeah, and so Dylan Banks looks really, really smooth right now, as he's starting to pull away from Sean Rogers and Nolan Hodgson. And that could be a strategy move. You know, Dylan Banks looks like he's on a Sunday drive, as we're working lap 166, but that might force drivers like Nolan Hodgson to try to be more willing to put their car in situations that they normally wouldn't put themselves in.
Well, and we're taking a look right now at Nolan Hodgson, who's starting to quietly reel in Sean Rogers, about 0.4 of a second between these two as we work lap 167. I mean, before, that gap was about 0.8 of a second, so quietly he's cut that gap in half while still managing to pull away from Atlanta, Georgia's Matt Long. 167 laps. Dave Riegel and Alan Bergen with you here in the Tony Trapasso Memorial Broadcast booth. Thanking everybody, as always, for welcoming us into your homes, onto your phones, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. We thank you for that. Of course, I know that my little guy is watching there at home, as his mother texted and asked for the link tonight, which means that David's tuned in, as Chris Davis is now registering as having crashed. Let's see what happened with Beast Mode. And it's almost like those bumps there in the bottom in that transition between one and whoa!
Whoa! Hello.
And a little bit of a Code Brown moment there for wow. For Custer in the 66. My God. Somebody better check the fire suit and give him an extra roll of toilet paper. Don't look now, but Nolan Hodgson has now crept up to the rear. Hey, easy there. The cameras just went a little nutty. Has now crept up to the rear of the 44 of Sean Rogers. So two of our drivers that, of course, sit at the top of the points pile with the biggest cheering sections on our YouTube.com live chat are now out here side by side, battling it out, nearly making contact as Hodgson, maybe to try to loosen the 44. We have a battle breaking out on 171. Still on our way, about 40 to go now in stage number 2. And Nolan Hodgson is turning up the heat on Sean Rogers.
And that's what they're going to do here as they get to the end of the stage. But here comes Paul Hill and that number 6 car trying to follow Hodges and go with him there. And he's going to think differently and go to the outside. Paul Hill out of Jacksonville, Florida. There he goes, looking for a 2-for-1 special coming out of 2.
All of a sudden, Paul Hill side by side with Nolan Hodgson. During the battle between Hodgson and Rogers, it enabled Paul Hill to suddenly throw on the afterburners and grab that extra gear as he now goes wheel to wheel with the 12. And they are closer. Wow, they are closer than the keys on a clarinet, that's for sure. As Nolan Hodgson tries to hold it just above Paul Hill. Now, the interesting thing is, that's going to put Paul Hill right into the cheese grater, Alan.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to use up your equipment too early here in this run. I mean, we're into the 20 laps. You know, we're not even 20 laps to go in the stage yet. And these guys are racing like it's the last lap.
Well, and, you know, this is kind of like this is the hardest question to answer in all of motorsports. You got just less than 40 laps to go in stage 2. Do you want to chance it? Do you want to see if you can stretch this fuel out and the tires all the way to the end? You know that you don't have anything for Dylan Banks, so you wind up fighting each other, and that's exactly what we've seen break out now as Sean Rogers has now ceded away second position to Nolan Hodgson and now looks to lose that to Paul Hill as we roll through turns 1 and 2 and down the back chute. Sean Rogers now loses P3 to Paul Hill, and it's almost like Sean Rogers now just has to look on from behind and, in disappointment for the time being as we work lap 176.
I mean, if you're Sean Rogers, you're really not losing anything as long as you keep sight of Paul Hill and Nolan Hodgson. You're still in the race, but back off, let them tires cool down. Don't overdrive the corners, and you can most certainly make it to the end of the stage. That's one set of tires you're going to be to the good. Not with that, but it's one less stop you got to make on the back end of stage 3.
Paul Hill isn't done yet as he gets ready to go door handle to door handle with Nolan Hodgson. They come out of turn 2 and shoot down the backstretch, and they look to basically duke it out here now behind what will be the lap car of Chris Claude, as Claude's going to go high and allow these two drivers to take their battle on past him. Chris Claude, always the quintessential good sport on the racetrack. He knows that he doesn't have the fast equipment like the 12 and the 6 do tonight, so he gets out of the way and allows Nolan Hodgson now to hold on to P2 for the time being as he is under fire from Paul Hill.
Here comes Paul Hill, going to try to make the move. Can't quite clear Nolan Hodgson coming out of the 3-4 complex. Nolan Hodgson is going to go high, and here comes Paul Hill on the inside. Oh, man. He's going to try to cross him over. Makes contact with Nolan Hodgson.
Yeah, all but kissed the car number on that right rear fender as now they haul it down the backstretch. Paul Hill can obviously get him on entry into each of the, each turn 1 and 3. The thing is, rolling out of 2 and 4, he doesn't have it, and that's where Nolan Hodgson is buttering that bread. Here on lap 180, we've got 30 to go in stage 2, and we are not done yet between these two drivers. It has not been a busy night for cautions as Paul Hill now looks to try to serve lunch to Nolan. Oh,
whoa!
Good Lord.
Oh, no, Hodgson.
Oh, no, it puts Hodgson into the wall.
Oh, no. If I'm Nolan Hodgson, I am not happy with that at all.
I am madder than a Keebler elf getting demoted to Fudge Packer.
That one always gets me.
You know what? That's an oldie but a goodie. As we're going to ride along with Paul Hill here in the 6 car as we get back to the live feed. Watch this here. I'm sure we're going to hear an apology, but it looks like Nolan Hodgson backed up that corner. Paul Hill wasn't ready for it, and Paul Hill just kind of has to watch Nolan Hodgson get on down here to the apron and as he drives away.
Oh, man. That's a tough break. Look, if you're Nolan Hodgson, though, you're going to drive with a chip on your shoulder the rest of the stage, and you got to work your way back through the field.
Well, and I just heard on race radio the apology that I was mentioning just a moment ago. So, obviously, that was not intentional on the part of Paul Hill, and we know that here. We can tell the difference. That's for sure. Because believe me, you and I have seen it a lot, Alan, where some of these things are intentionally think, oh my, you are just trying to light a fire with the wrong person, and other times you think, you feel so bad for both drivers. Just simply because, Paul Hill didn't have that intention going in there. He misjudged where Hodgson was braking and then ultimately kind of screws himself up a little bit because now I'm sure that the front of the 6 has a little wrinkle-dinkle on the hood.
Yeah, and not only that, but I've been in those situations where, especially on, I know we're watching a NASCAR race, but on dirt, it's real hard to anticipate that corner. But that goes along with that track awareness. You got to have good track awareness. And, these cars don't have brake lights, so you don't know when it's going to brake.
I'm always curious if we're going to see that eventually on asphalt. On oval asphalt, that is.
I don't think we are.
I think it'd be fun.
I think there would be a switch in the car, and I'd be flipping the switch.
Well, that's fair, too. We see it on road courses from time to time. We don't see it on dirt ovals, but something that I've always been fascinated with is that, and Frank Marchese and I had a discussion about this a long time ago. Frank and I were talking about when we went to the single lug nut for the next gen cars and how the people in NASCAR were like, oh my God, look, single lug nut, no more 5 lug nuts. They've been doing it in open wheel and IndyCar for decades.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like NASCAR is just now catching up to those series. Switching to the next-gen cars on the sequential shifters. And
yeah, that's right. Sequential shifters came from open wheel racing. There are so many things. Rain tires. Whoa! Look at the 97 of Matt Long going 3 wide now between the 33 of Ken Ron and now the 44 of Sean Rogers. Now Rogers here trying to get one more car width underneath Long, but for the time being, Matt Long going to maintain 3rd position as Paul Hill is starting to drive away now by about 1.6 seconds, and it's all but 6 seconds way up to Dylan Banks. But, their rain tires, windshield wipers, all that stuff comes from, the road rally races or open wheel IndyCar style races, F1, and when we got them in NASCAR, it was almost like somebody gave them fire. Like, oh, it's the quest for fire. Wow, look, it's shiny. Yeah, pal, listen, they've been doing it for 25 years in F1.
Yeah, I mean, it's really nothing new. And, like, the stage racing, everybody's like, oh, I don't like stage racing. Well, look, we've been doing it in the All-Star race for decades. The only difference between that and this, we don't eliminate cars.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, at some of the lower levels of asphalt oval racing, they do stages, and heat racing and things like that we think are foreign here in the top 3 series. But, overall, it's not an old concept.
It is not. And, I've grown up, here in the Midwest, we have a lot of dirt racing. I mean, I'm in, here in St. Louis, we're a hotbed for dirt modified racing, dirt late model racing. And, I do encourage, if you can get out to a dirt track, Dave, and watch a big block modified race, go watch the Billy Whitaker's Cars 200 with the Super Dirt Car Series.
Where I come from, big block modifieds is never mind. That's one of the things that I probably can't say on the air, but it was a dirty joke. Let's just go with it.
But 194. The Super Dirt Car modifieds, they're it's basically a sprint car frame with a body on it.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. It's really not that big of a swing, so to speak.
No, but it's cool to see, and I've pointed this out in many leagues that I've commentated for. It's cool to go to the local short track and see the Kyle Larsons racing sprint cars, and the Kenny Wallace is racing modifieds, and Kenny Wallace kind of did it backwards, right? He jumped into NASCAR, and once he retired, he says, "I'm gonna go run dirt," right? So he ran all these dirt races. Then he says, "You know what? I'm gonna run for the Federated Auto Parts Raceway I-55 Championship." So his last 4-year racing, he won the UMP Modified Track Champion. The track championship here at I-55 in Peabody, Missouri.
Hey, Kenny Schrader's been doing that for like 15 years where, he's been running featured dirt races and all kinds of stuff, and I think Kenny Schrader's like 70. That's a lot of abuse on your body.
So Kenny Schrader's shop is actually about 10 minutes down the road from my house.
And not once did you think maybe I could go talk to him.
He's a very approachable guy.
And why haven't you approached him? Or does he only have a restraining order on you?
He doesn't have a restraining order on me. But I hung out with this guy, and he fangirled over Ken Schrader. I'm like, look, he buys his pants at Walmart just like I do.
Kenny Schrader out of Fenton, Missouri, 69 years old, still out there running some of these. I mean, he did top the I-55 back in May, just a couple of weeks ago. He got his 7th win of the year on Saturday night at Federated Auto Parts Raceway.
Yes, and he actually co-owns that track with Ray Marler, and that's a partnership that goes way back, even before I was born, in the 60s and 70s, when he got to start driving USAC midgets and USAC sprint cars.
I mean, the man got a $500 win for the March Madness. I mean, he's not doing it for the money anymore. He's doing it for the love of racing. That was at Springfield Raceway on March 16th.
Yes. And, it's cool because he goes and runs one night he could be in a UMP dirt car modified. Then he go run IMCA. And then he could go run an asphalt street stock up in the Northeast.
And he ran the SRX series for a little while.
Yes. He was actually the repairman for the SRX series. And whenever they came to Federated Auto Parts Raceway back in their second season, he was actually the hometown hero. And his garage was full of the SRX cars that, well, Paul Tracy decided he was going to beat the crap out of.
Well, I'm keeping an eye on him because, I mean, listen, Kenny Schrader, and, you say that he's a very approachable guy. He is also one of those people that I've seen in stock car racing for decades. I mean, since the 80s and then some. I mean, the interesting thing about Ken Schrader is that he's just always around. He loves racing. I mean, Dale Jr. tells a great story about spending a week with Kenny Schrader running dirt tracks and other stuff and then coming back reeking of beer and hangover, taking one look at Dale Sr. and just scurrying away like a scared child.
It's kind of cool, though, whenever Ken Schrader comes, when you approach him and he goes, "Hey, how's your dad doing?"
Yeah, that has to be kind of cool.
So my dad used to race street stocks back before I was born, and Kenny Schrader was still running down there at I-55, running late models. He ran everything. If it had 4 wheels and a steering wheel, he was probably racing it. But he's one of those owners that if he's there at the racetrack, he'll go up and talk to the drivers, and in that way. And so, here lately he's been running a B mod.
Well, and for a lot of these young guys that are coming through the dirt tracks and the short asphalt tracks, the ARCA series, your K&N West and so on and so forth, that's encouraging to have somebody like Kenny Schrader just swing by your car. Hey, man, how you doing? That's not a bad thing. And that's something that I think NASCAR, again, and I say so often, NASCAR takes care of their history, but they also take care of their younger folks. In spring training in baseball, I love to see the interaction between, your seasoned veterans that are going to be assigned to a 25-man roster at the end of spring training. And they're still hanging out with guys that are playing single-A ball that aren't going to see the majors for another 3 years. And then to see them reunite, like, hey, when somebody gets called up to the majors. In fact, Johan Rojas, the nose picker from Philadelphia, to see him go from AA and make the jump to the majors this year, he gets to see a lot of those guys that he spends every February and March with down in Florida. And it's kind of validating for those players and for these drivers to be able to say that that's my peer, that's my colleague, so to speak, whatever you want to call it. So it's got to be really cool for some of them to get a word of encouragement from somebody who is driven at the highest level of auto racing. And speaking of the highest level of auto racing, here on lap 208, this will be the stage. I see all kinds of smoke. I'm waiting to see who it belongs to. That's the 90 of Savignano. Let's see what happens here. It looks like maybe he popped an engine. As a little rub of the wall coming out of turn 4. And here... Oh, Lord!
You got a heating pad? Because I'm going to need it.
He's going to need it for sure. Let's see what happened here from the cockpit of Anthony Savignano. Little rub of the wall here. And it just snapped on him. He might have punctured a tire because we were that late in the run.
I mean, when the car goes around on you like that, there's really no saving it at that point. You're just taking a slide for life.
Well, we're going to watch this one more time, but we're going to do it in slow-mo because I'm curious what happened with Savignano. Here he is. There's the rub. And then all of a sudden, that car just snaps.
It looks like a tire went down.
That had to be a tire.
I mean, that's the only thing that can be consistent with the tire rub.
Here at the end of stage 2, it's going to be Dylan Banks atop the pile from Lillington as he comes on down pit road.
High, wide, and handsome. He was.
He sure was. He had a 6-second gap over everybody else at one point as he's going to get 4 tires on the old 70 machine. Let's see if we can get a hold of Dylan, as he should be up here once again in the DGR stable. Hey, Dylan, it's Dave and Alan up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir, I sure do.
Well, a little bit of an early end here to stage 2 after Savignano. It looks like he might have cut a tire down. How is the car feeling there at the end?
Feels like it does in the first 5 laps, Dave. Feels amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you were gapping the field at one point by 6 seconds. It was impressive from, the word go. I mean, what's going to be the stage now, or the strategy now? I mean, you've obviously proven that you can go a ridiculous amount of laps, on just basically one tank of fuel and one set of tires.
Yeah, I'm just gonna... Sorry about that. But yeah, I'm just gonna try to keep this track position, keep in the lead, and stay up front. That's what it's all about, keeping this track position. You let somebody get in front of you and get in that dirty area, it's absolutely freaking horrible. It's like the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, and it looks like, look, you went 94 laps on the last set and the last tank of fuel. Obviously, that means that you can do this third stage in one stop. Are you thinking early stop or holding on to the late portion of the stage?
I don't know what to tell you because, I've seen, like the first stage, it was like a caution every 30 laps or so we had. And that second stage, there, we had a long run. So I think for me, I'm just going to try and stay out as long as I can. Keep this set front of me because I'm good on the long run. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go as long as I can on fuel and tires and see what happens from there.
All right, man. Well, listen, good luck the rest of the way. We'll see what happens here in stage 3. And listen, we'll all have our eyes on you for sure.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys.
All right, well, here we go. We got Dylan Banks on the in the lead right now as we're working lap 212 under the fourth caution. For the stage break, 3 cautions for cause, or 2 cautions for cause, 2 cautions for the stage breaks. And this race has been mean and green, outside of the 2 cautions for incident and the 2 stage breaks. But we're getting ready to fire this stage back off and go stage 3 racing as the cars are getting lined up by 2 by 2 Noah's Ark style, and there is one car taking the wave around. And here we go. Noah's Ark style, 2 by 2 behind the iRacing.com pace car. Dylan Banks is going to choose the inside line. And that's going to put Paul Hill to his outside. And, I got to wonder, is Nolan Hodges, is he going to forgive and forget, or is he going to try to return the favor to Paul Hill? It didn't look unintentional when those 2 made contact, but you never know.
The iRacing.com pace car with its lights out this time by means that we will have green flag racing. Stage 3 going to be underway a little bit longer than usual just because of the way that the caution came out. But Dylan Banks comes into the Geico restart zone and we're back underway.
And Dylan Banks high wide and handsome coming down to turn number 2 down the back straightaway. And he is gone. Adios, amigo. 0.3 of a second gap over Paul Hill. And, I mean, that car looks like it was shot out of a rocket, but here comes Paul Hill, Matt Long, Nolan Hodges, and Sean Rogers in hot pursuit of Dylan Banks.
Watch Sean Rogers sitting behind Nolan Hodgson right now as we're going to go on board here. All of a sudden, this is turning into quite a salad bowl of a mess here, and you don't want to see your salad get tossed here on lap 215 with such a long way to go in stage 3.
I like that. That was good. That was good. Dylan Banks doing Dylan Banks things. But here we are. Matt Long, Sean Rogers, Nolan Hodges. That's a fifth, fourth, and third. And here comes Tanner Marty in that 29 car. He was trying to get into the mix also. Here comes Sean Rogers looking.
Sean Rogers looks to get around, but he goes back single file just behind Nolan Hodgson as we work lap 217 tonight at Iowa Speedway. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight, checking out the youtube.com live chat. Amanda Price still cheering on Sean Rogers, and Callie H says we should watch the replay. That was not the first time that Hill hit Hill hit Nolan in this race. An apology offered does not take away the many incidents, which is not wrong. And then Callie H goes right back to cheering on Nolan Hodgson.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the thing is, do you forgive or forget, or do you pay him back whenever he might be having a good run? I mean, that's just a competitor in me. Nonetheless, here we go. Sean Rogers in that third spot. Taking a look on Paul Hill. Thinking better of it. Don't want to burn off those Dr. Feelgoods just yet. Lap 220 of 350 laps here from Iowa Speedway. As Sean Rogers is going to take the outside. And we want to thank everybody for tuning in here to the Stacy Strong SNA Cup Series. I am Alan Bergen alongside Dave Regal, and we are going to step aside for a quick commercial break, and we'll see you on the other side of the break.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
So hi, my name's Christy. I am a wife, a mother of 3 children. I am a sister and an aunt of lots of nieces and nephews, and I'm also a substitute teacher. So my everyday life changed by going to appointments, a lot of appointments, a lot of scans. During the treatment, my body just got weaker, so I wasn't as active with my children and with my husband. So I was laying on the couch a lot more. I'm an active person, and so that just didn't sit well with me, but that's how it changed. My body was just weaker, and I couldn't do the things that I used to do. So there was a lady in where I live from a local church who had heard that I had breast cancer, and she sent me a letter just reaching out for support, and she actually said that she's the one that told me about Trisha's Hope and that I should contact them, so I did. So specifically, I wasn't able to really work during my treatment or anything like that, so the grant that I was able to get helped me pay my bills, provide gas money. I was driving to and from treatments, and so it helped a lot with bills and everything. I would just say I am so grateful for Trisha's Hope and for all the people that have donated, because I don't know what I would have done without them.
Preen Garden Weed Preventer and Preen Garden Weed Preventer Plus Plant Food block weeds before they start and are safe for use around over 400 flowers, vegetables, trees, and shrubs. Best of all, they give you 3 months of freedom from weeding in just 4 easy steps. You can apply Preen anytime before or during the growing season. But since it's a weed preventer, not a weed killer, early spring is best. Here's how. Start by removing existing weeds and their roots in the area where you want to apply Preen. Sprinkle granules directly onto dry soil, mulch, or stone so that they're evenly spaced. Within 24 hours of applying, integrate the granules into the top layer of soil or mulch or stone-covered bed. Finally, water with a hose or sprinkler or a well-timed soaking rain to activate the protective weed barrier. When activated, Preen creates an invisible weed-fighting barrier just below the soil surface that targets and prevents weed seeds from sprouting and forming roots. People and pets may enter the treated area once dusts have settled and the area is thoroughly dry from watering or first rain. That's it. Now you'll have a beautiful weed-free space and 3 months to do anything but weeding. Satisfaction guaranteed. Trusted for over 50 years, Preen is America's #1 weed preventer brand with weed preventers for every type of garden.
Basket can't defend. He's got the outside line for the second part, and he can't hold on.
Going the long way around. We're going to be 3 wide for the lead as they all come to the line. Who is going to take it in the end?
And here comes Lockwood. He's going to make the move to the outside. Quinn tries to force him off a little bit, but there he goes. It's going to be side by side through turn 1.
Will he be able to cover him off? He does. Weaving back to the left-hand side. Reynolds is trying everything. The kitchen sink is being thrown at it. They're leaning on each other. Coming into turn number 3. It's going to be a drag race through 3 and 4. Coming back to the line. Here comes Trish on the bottom.
Bouchard's going to hold the inside. Tries to be the late breaker here. They're going to be side by side through the final chicane. They bang doors, but keep it clean.
As they're still 4 wide on the run down into the back straightaway. Demerit's looking for a line as well. What is going on in Michigan?
Novak into the fence. They're still beating and banging.
Oh
and to the line.
He is much faster coming through there. Is there damage on Challenger? Apromitis is ahead. There's going to be a race to the line. Who is going to get it?
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Welcome back to Iowa Speedway, where the Stacy Strong Cup Series is working lap 240 of 350. We're approaching 100 to go here. Dave Regal and Alan Bergen with you here in the Tony Trapasso Memorial Broadcast booth. We want to thank everyone for tuning in, welcoming us into your homes, onto your phones, wherever you may be and however you may be listening, as we are 110 laps to go officially at the line. Dylan Banks has been your race leader almost from the start when the green flag dropped. Sean Rogers running in P2. That's pretty much where he's been hanging out all night. Nolan Hodgson got moved earlier by Paul Hill, who currently runs in third position, about a half second in front of Hodgson. And, you know, if I was Nolan Hodgson, Alan, I think I'd be driving with a purpose right now.
I mean, you're not wrong. And I'm interested to see how Nolan Hodgson handles Paul Hill. I mean, I know it wasn't, the contact wasn't intentional, but I mean, he had been running a flawless race up to that point. And, you know, I know when you're inside the car, you're a different person than you would be if you were just messing around. League racing, I'm going to make this comparison real quick. League racing is a lot different than browser racing. I mean, you're racing for points, and you're racing these guys day in and day out. So the thing is you got to wonder how these guys are going to approach to whenever Nolan Hodgson makes that pass or attempts to.
Mamadou Ba here in the YouTube.com live chat wants to know how Nolan has the points lead as without a win. It's very simple. If you can get yourself some really good stage points and you know, finish consistently in that top 10, you know, every week, you can easily have the race lead. It's all about consistency. And I know that there's a complaint there from Mamadou Ba about the ads, but you know what? We have obligations to our sponsors. And at the same time, if you were watching a real race on Fox, they run them like every 15 laps, so calm down. Not the end of the world. Nobody complains if Mike Joy wants to take a break, but if Dave Regal wants to take a break, it's a sin. Go relax and sit down. Nolan Hodgson here. If we look at his stats now, he's got out of the 19 races. Now, keep in mind that not all of those are points paying, but out of 19 races, he has an average start of 9th, an average finish of 7th. You know, he's gaining positions week after week after week, and you know his average changes up 2.4 positions. That's a darn good number with a rating of 92.3. Just 201 incidents. That's almost nothing. And he's also run 6,000 miles this season. That's 21,000 corners. That's a lot of racing. If you miss a race, you know, for instance, and here I am defending Nolan Hodgson and why he has the points lead. He's made sure that he's been in all 19 events, even the non-points paying, you know, events. Sean Rogers also doesn't have a win, and he sits P2. DeCiani's been out for the last couple of weeks. Anderson's, you know, finally made his return here. And, you know, Patrick Gitter with 5 wins hasn't been around the last 3 weeks. So that's how Nolan Hodgson can get himself up here in the P1.
I mean, yeah, I mean, consistency is the name of the game. It's a long season. It's 36 weeks. And, you know, and why you're explaining points, that Red Bull car was just like you, out of the groove.
Nolan Hodgson running in P4 right now, our points leader. Dylan Banks, our race leader, holding off P2 in points, Sean Rogers. as we work lap 251. We are 100 laps to go here at Iowa Speedway. And you know what? This is one of those raceways that, came on to the series, a number of years ago. And quite frankly, I think that this offers some of the coolest racing in NASCAR.
I mean, I hate to see Auto Club go away in this, but I mean, we got this track instead, which, Auto Club had just atrocious racing for those early years. And once we got the next gen car there, the racing was great at Auto Club. I mean, and then the racing is also great here, too.
Absolutely. I mean, look, the Cup Series, this is our first year here. For the Xfinity Series, they've been running here since 2011. They took a little break there in 2020 through 23, and they came back here for 24. The IndyCar Series has been racing here since 2007, and 1 year it held the Rolex Sports Car Series back in 2007. And this place is perfectly located. It's right right along I-80, which is a major east-west artery here in the United States. So easy to get to. Overall, they've done a heck of a job getting this place, into shape. Lap records are held by all kinds of big names here. Of course, in the Truck Series, Chandler Smith laid down fast time back in 2019. In the Xfinity Series, it was Elliott Sadler, which if you ever want to see a really hard post-race interview Elliott Sadler. He's almost as hard to understand as somebody speaking Greek.
I love listening to Elliott Sadler. But if you look, the IndyCar race here in Iowa, superb. And, I'm a huge Joseph Newgarden fan over on the IndyCar side, and I cannot wait until that series comes to Worldwide Technology Raceway. But that Worldwide Technology Raceway, Iowa Speedway, I can see being on the schedule for a very, very long time.
Dylan Banks still out here leading laps. A couple of drivers coming down for pit service on 211, but pretty much everybody else staying out. Steve Herring was just down on 241. We're starting to wonder when some of these guys are going to blink, as most of them have gone through just 5 of their 10 total sets of tires. So, they've got plenty of grip left in the pits. It's just a matter of, do you want to use it or do you not? And I think with a stage that's this long coming toward the end of this race, that some of these drivers might just benefit from it. The question is, do Dylan Banks and Sean Rogers want to do that early or late? And we talked about that during the stage break, and Dylan Banks was not willing to tip his hand and give us any insight.
No, you don't want to show your hand too early in this race. But, it's the heat cycle. The heat cycle. And, I say that a lot as we're racing into the evening time here. And when this race goes checkered flag, the sun will have just gone down there in the west. So right now, we're looking at, the humidity has actually gone up a little bit. And the track temperature has went down too. So, that humidity.
That 93-degree asphalt temperature, we're approaching the witching hour. Once you get to about 90 degrees of asphalt temperature, the grip is going to be insane. And it makes me wonder if that's why these guys are able to hold the cars out here on the asphalt for so long, because as they're out here wearing down that rubber, they're also basically kind of, watching the sun go down, and that sun going down and the shadows that are being cast here in turns 3 and 4 is really affecting the grip on these tires. I mean, it's extending their lives, because 3 and 4 are basically sitting completely in the shade right now, and it's making it nice and comfy for these drivers getting into 3.
Yeah, and so it's almost kind of like it's blinding almost when you go into turn 3, because you're going towards the west. And, you don't have a sun visor, you can just flip down out of the headliner there. As Sean Rogers is going to drop down to the inside of the racetrack. Don't know if he had an incident, but Paul Hill's going to take that second spot.
In reference to Mamadou Ba's latest question, it says, so what happened to Gitter and DeCiani, and weren't they the points leaders for so long? They were, and then they started missing races. And once you start missing races, you don't continue to earn points. You know, so if you're going to miss 2 or 3 races, especially, you know, in succession, you wind up basically giving up those positions. It's no different than if, you know, a baseball team were just to give up and sit there just because you have more wins than somebody else. I mean, eventually you've got to give up that position in your standings. I mean, let's look here at Matt DiCiani. Now, DiCiani has now missed 6 events this season, as he's only got 13 there. That includes the non-points paying races. And then, of course, Patrick Gitter, he's also missed 6 events, and he last ran at Worldwide Technology at Gateway. So that was back the beginning of the month. So he's already missed 1 this month. He basically is not running a full-time schedule at this point.
Oh, here comes Dylan Banks dealing with the lap cars there, as he almost had a moment. And he's going around the 62 car. The 62 car is going to go high, get out of the groove there. And DCI is going to make quick work of those 2 lap cars, of course, Claude and the 62 car.
And speaking of DiCiani, now DiCiani, he last ran at June 2nd, but then took almost the entire month of May off. In fact, as I'm looking here, I'm just making sure that I'm not talking out of my hat. But from Daytona, let's see here. 23, 5, 17. He missed most of the month of May.
Yeah.
So that's how that would have worked out there for DiCiani. And I'm gonna just double check. I'm sorry, not DiCiani, but Patrick Gitter. Now I'm gonna check DiCiani, and he basically missed the entire month of May also.
Yeah, and that could have been due to commitments outside of iRacing. Could have been other league schedules clashing with the Sunday Night NASCAR League. There could have been money races that he was entered that conflicted. So a number of things could have happened to both of those drivers. I know that at one time they ran like 1,200 miles in a weekend during the Coke 600 weekend. So, I mean, that's no easy feat when you're doing that many miles on a race car.
No, and I mean, you know, to your point, I mean, maybe you had commitments outside of iRacing. It's not often.
Right now, we're looking at Dylan Banks there, sitting high, wide, and handsome, and Nolan Hodges running about 1.5 seconds behind Dylan Banks in that number 70 car.
I did see that message float through there before it was retracted, and quite frankly, it's not that it's not enough. It's that, you know, we all spend a lot of time here on the iRacing.com servers, the drivers and us here in the broadcast booth equally. We don't just sit here and quick throw this together. This takes a lot of work to put these productions on, and even when they don't go perfectly every time, it's still, you know, personal time that you spend away from your family, away from, you know, your other commitments in life. But Dylan Banks has been committed to this race lead since the drop of the initial green flag. We're starting to see some of these drivers make the call to come on down pit road. Keith Long came down on 263. Looks like 225 for Michael Caffrey. So the lap cars are all coming down. Dylan Banks, though, he's out here holding it together, and we're going to be seeing this graphic a lot now as we're 62 laps in the books, which is still 32 shy of where the drivers were when they came down at the end of stage 2.
Yeah, they're going to have to make one more stop. And, you know, wow. So Dylan Banks there, you know, he's pretty much put it on cruise control. So, you know, look, barring anything crazy that happens, I know we're still a lot of laps away and there's still a lot of racing laps to go. But I want to point out something right now, that there's better than, there's 13 cars, if I'm doing my math right, that are on the lead lap right now.
I've had enough of Mamadou. You're gone.
And Mamadou's been fired.
Dylan Banks here. I'm watching the wheel here And we're just going to take away this graphic from the bottom so we can watch that orange piece of tape here at the 12 o'clock position. Dylan's not really fighting this car right now. I mean, you know, he's managed to go out here and make this almost look too easy. Maybe a little bit of fight here in the transition between 1 and 2, but not really having to wheel the car out of 2 and down the back chute.
Yeah, I mean, he was just so smooth, and you can kind of tell where he's in those bumps at, Dave, because you can see that wheel kind of jerk to the right just a little bit as he comes across those bumps, and it's really upsetting the car.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about those bumps multiple times tonight on the racetrack, and I mean, quite frankly, it's kind of hard to sit here and say that this is an easy racetrack to get around, although that it's not new, it's certainly not old either. And, you know, watching these guys try to navigate this thing is really a work of art for many of them, you know, especially when you can do it well. And we can see that paying off, you know, in, you know, double-digit dividends for Dylan Banks. Paul Hill right now running in P3. He's a quarter second ahead of Matt Long. And we've seen Matt Long all season long, you know, kind of being more of a bridesmaid rather than the bride. He finally picked up a win a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, now he's at least solidified into the playoffs. And the way that he's running right now, I'm going to say that he's considering another run at Victory Lane later in the season. Perhaps he's got nothing for Dylan Banks tonight, but he's challenging Paul Hill for P3 right now.
Yeah, and, man, these guys have driven a masterful race. I want to give props to the whole top 5 who's driven just... He's put on a clinic, and this is how you drive this sort of race on a racetrack. These guys are truly professionals behind the wheel.
Yeah, you know, the cars may be virtual, but the competition is real. And what we see here as Matt Long does get around Paul Hill, you know, these guys are putting dozens of hours in of practice time a week, hundreds of laps before they even hit the asphalt on race night here in prime time. And with 70 to go now, this time by, Dylan Banks still controls this race with a commanding lead now of 1.6 seconds over Nolan Hodgson.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is this is Matt Long that we're actually looking at here. So far up in P2, up in that P2 position, Neil Pearson out of Perth, Western Australia, and looks like we had a yellow flag as Ron Fitting shows crashed. As we are under caution for the 5th time, this will be the 4th time for cause, or the 3rd time for cause rather. But nonetheless, we will get a replay to the fans here in just a second. And this is when you can see these guys come down pit road. And
Cody McCorkle registering as having crashed, as well as Ron Fitting. Let's see what happened here as we go to the replay. It's going to be wholesale pit stops for the time being, as we see Ron Fitting all by his lonesome out here. Oh, that's got to be another blown tire. The way that thing just snapped and went up into the wall, he had to be playing with fire in the first place.
Oh, no.
Let's see if we can go back here and maybe look at this from the blimp. Oh! And there was insult added to injury. Now here's Fitting, and we're gonna have to go back just a little bit further, as we're gonna go to half speed. The back end steps out just a little, but that right front just absolutely hammers him into the wall. Now, as he's sitting helplessly, just kind of waiting for everybody else to get by, he gets ready to pull down. He's obviously sees a clear racetrack, at least from his perspective. He waits for everybody. He's waiting, and the 78 out of nowhere just comes through and annihilates him. I'm going to look back here to find out who's driving the 78 tonight. That's Cody McCorkle. There we go.
Yeah.
Let's just ride along with Cody and see what might have gone through this young man's mind. And maybe he caught a little bit of sun glare here. I'm not sure. He's going to come out of turn 2, a little rub of the wall. Now the wreck is going to be just ahead of him here. Oh, he rubbed the wall and he was already upset and couldn't get himself back down. And just drove right through fitting.
That is a tough break. Not what you want to see if you're Ryan fitting.
Now, what's interesting here is that on pit road, Nolan Hodgson beat out Dylan Banks. What happened with Dylan Banks? Now, he had... I'm looking to see here what happened with his pit time. Dylan Banks had a 14.63 second pit time. Hodgson was 14.72. Just looking to see Neil Pearson. Let's see. Nolan Hodgson leaving pit lane. I wonder if they got shuffled coming off of pit lane. No, it's just weird. This is very strange. Probably if I wasn't dealing with the Mamadou Ba thing, we would have had a closer eye on that. Looking for Dylan Banks and when he came into pit road, because this is interesting. Well, we're going to see what happens when we reshuffle here. 2 by 2 go the cars. One of every animal on their way into the arc. The iRacing.com pace car bringing us down the backstretch as we come into turn 3. It's going to be Hodgson, Long, Witt, Pearson, Cornez, Anderson, Marty, Papineau, Davis, and Banks. Dylan Banks going to be restarting on the outside of row number 5. The iRacing.com pace car makes the turn down pit road. Nolan Hodgson fires off almost immediately in the Geico restart zone, and we are back underway. This is the bread and butter for Nolan Hodgson out of Lamar's, Iowa. Home track for him, about 4.5 hours away, he says, as he is now going to be side by side with Matt Long here. And Matt Long ready to haul the mail from Atlanta all the way to Lamar's and says, "You're not getting away that easy, not so fast, my friend," as he's going to bring along with him Neil Pearson.
Yeah, Neil Pearson, as well as guys that, I would have... Look, we saw him run a Master 4 race at Sonoma, but the fact that he can come run a oval here in the middle of Iowa, I mean, it's probably, I want to say it's at least 8 o'clock at night over there tomorrow night on Monday night. See here, I will get you.
I hear him screaming "wrecking" on the radio. Let's see what it was. As it looks like Chris Custer may have been involved in this one. Let's take a run back and look fast. Chris Custer in the Coca-Cola machine gets touched by Chris Davis and sideways. Ooh, takes just a little bit on the nose of Dylan Banks, does Chris Custer. And he goes sideways here right at the start-finish line. Let's see if we can look at this again, perhaps from Custer's nose, as perhaps he made the last stand of the race. He goes sideways and just catches that very front there. As I've got to pull this window back over. Oy. That's never any fun. That's never any fun. Just to be put your shoe right there on the old brake pedal and hope for the best. And obviously Chris Custer here in the 66 got the worst of it after he was nudged out of the way by Chris Davis across the nose of Dylan Banks, and then thrown into the outside wall just underneath the flag stand.
Yeah, tough break for Chris Custer. But hey, we got breaking news in the garage area, though.
And that is?
Well, for Neil Pearson, he's actually sipping coffee while he's racing as it is 9:50 in the morning tomorrow in Perth. I'll show you.
A little bit of toast with some Vegemite on there. Gail Ream cheering on Nolan Hodgson. I wonder if Pearson does do the Vegemite thing. You know what? We're going to take a look here since we're under caution. Hey, Neil, it's Dave up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got a copy.
Neil, listen, I'm sitting up here, and of course I know that you're there sipping coffee while you're on the other side of the international date line. I got to know, are you a Vegemite guy or no?
No, definitely not.
I've tried Vegemite exactly once, and y'all can keep it.
Oh, I'd happily give it back to you guys, so...
My sister was in Australia about 20 years ago and brought some home, and I thought it was the most putrid thing I'd ever eaten.
Yeah, I don't know how people eat it, but apparently the trick is like really tiny amounts, so the smaller the amounts on it, the better it is, which goes against all logic if you ask me.
Yeah, I had it lathered on there like, fries with ketchup on it.
Yeah, that would have been super salty.
Well, we were just curious, but listen, you run up here P2 right now behind Matt, ahead of Nolan Hodgson, behind Matt Long. What's going to be the stage now as you've got your teammate up here ahead of you?
I don't know, to be honest. I'm not very strong at the moment, so I'm just going to try hang out, maybe protect Matt as much as I can, help him out, and if I've got something at the end, have a go at him, that's all I can do, is just try to look after my stuff a little bit and see how we end up.
All right, buddy. Well, listen, good luck the rest of the way. You've got just about 57 laps to go, so we'll see you on the other side, and hopefully you're on the podium.
Yeah, hopefully I get to talk to you guys afterwards.
All right, buddy. We're going to send him back on to Dirty South Racing as he is way below the South. He is down under in Perth, Australia. And you know what? I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, Alan, that's just got to be cool to know that we're all getting ready to go to bed on Sunday night. And my greatest dream, and I have a very low thrill threshold, has always been to be on the West Coast during football season. I want to be able to go to church at 8 in the morning, and then pregame for football is actually, I bag church, watch pregame for football at 9 in the morning, and Sunday night football is over by 8:30 p.m.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have that luxury. I mean, I'm just an hour behind you. But I tell you what, though, these guys are getting lined up once again behind the iRacing.com pace car. 2x2 Noah's Ark style. And we're getting ready, to 6 caution and cautions, precaution. It's getting more difficult to drive these cars because of the sun factor. Not because of the tires, but because of the sun factor.
Yeah, drivers coming in that time were definitely making some adjustments to their machines as the iRacing.com pace car comes into turn 3. Now it's time to watch this track make its transition here as, of course, we now see that the track temperature is down to 88, so essentially a quote-unquote cold racetrack, if you will. As the pace car gets ready to head on down pit road, we get into the Geico restart zone and back underway on lap 295.
And here goes Matt Long. Green flag once again. And this time he's got Neil Pearson and Nolan Hodgins in hot pursuit. And here comes Michael Witt. And there's a guy we haven't talked about hardly at all, Dave, and that is Michael Witt in that 88 car, who I guess he's throwing it back to Dale Earnhardt with that 88 and that Pepsi machine. which is a cool looking paint scheme, I might add.
It's a cool looking paint scheme, but if you were blue and yellow for Dale Earnhardt, PepsiCo belongs nowhere near that, of course, as Dale Earnhardt was a very long time Koch family driver, and of course now Austin Dillon carrying that tradition on from the Richard Childress Racing stable in the 3 machine. As now Tanner Marty looks to go on the low side here of Michael Witt. Dylan Banks just laid down the fast time at 24.07 seconds. So obviously he used the most as he could out of that pit stop to make some adjustments, and perhaps he was willing to make those adjustments, get a little bit of damage repaired. That time around, that makes a lot more sense. He had some damage to get repaired there. As Matt Long is now your race leader out of Atlanta, Georgia, speaking of Coca-Cola.
Hey, you know my Gold Peak is made from the Coca-Cola Company. Dylan Banks, so running in 7th, he dominated first and second stages. He's up to 7th position and probably looking for more. Bobby Anderson, another driver we haven't talked much about today, and he's up 20 spots, currently in 5th position. And as I say that, Dylan Banks is coming back to the field to do Dylan Banks kind of things.
Dylan Banks on the recovery drive just inside the 18 now of Bobby Anderson. Anderson trying to hold him back, and they're all but boxing him in here with the 88 on the high. So the 88 of Michael Witt trying to pin down Dylan Banks, keeping him away from that top 5, because they know that once he gets out there to the race lead again into that clean air, he is going to be unstoppable, especially now that we've basically gotten that money stop in. Side by side goes Dylan Banks and Bobby Anderson down the backstretch and into turn 3. Banks with the edge, climbing himself into the top 5. He now has to get around Tanner Marty, which is going to prove to be a very tough task indeed, as he now looks to the inside of Marty. The question is, does Marty let him by, or are they going to fight this one out now that he can see Banks just behind him? He's got to know that Banks is going to have the, oh no, near calamity as Dylan Banks of the 18 nearly collide coming into turn 3.
Oh my goodness. You know what? Look, this is the racing we're going to get to see here for the next 48 laps. Bobby Anderson on the inside trying to make some hay. Here comes Dylan Banks up to P4. Looking underneath Nolan Hodges. He's driving with a purpose. He's driving like someone owes him the lunch money. But there's Tanner Marty on the top shelf where Mama hides the cookies.
Yeah, Hodgson is going to be the hardest car to get around here. I mean, you know, you can get up to Nolan Hodgson, but passing him is a completely different game as Hodgson gets the run out of 2. Now takes a little bit of an arrow push, nearly checked into by the 70, as the 70 just shoved Nolan Hodgson down into turn 3 almost on cue. And as we cross the start-finish line, Nolan Hodgson going to hold Dylan Banks behind him by about 0.2 of a second. So it's going to be quite a while, but Dylan Banks is at least to some degree showing the way to the front of the pack. He knows how it is to run up there and what he has to do to get there.
Yeah, you know, the only person that knows what it takes right now is Dylan Banks. He's gonna be the person right now in that top 5 that knows he's got to get there. He's driving with a little bit of urgency. I mean, look, there's only 45 laps in the race. It's time to put it on full send and send it on up to the front.
Yeah, I'm with you, Alan. At this point, especially when you know that you've got that leading experience up here, Dylan Banks is going to want to get up there fast. And I mean, right now he's only got 45 laps to go here at the line to get up to the lead. Now, he still trails Nolan Hodgson by about 0.2 of a second. So Hodgson has now figured out the Dylan Banks line, so he's going to be able to make that number 12 Chevrolet or a Ford Mustang that much wider and that much more difficult to get around. A lot of times with these drivers, you can see them plow through the field like they've got a V-plow from the Department of Transportation on the front of the car. But then once they get up to that one driver, and tonight's driver is Nolan Hodgson for the defensive drive of the race, once you get up to somebody like Nolan Hodgson, getting around them is a completely different ball of wax. We're going to go on board right now with Nolan Hodgson looking back to Dylan Banks. For so much of this race, Dylan Banks had nothing but clean air and empty asphalt in front of him, and now he has essentially a minefield as Paul Hill getting closer once again to Nolan Hodgson is now making his run here from 5th up toward 4th. The thing is, for Nolan Hodgson, do you brake check him and send him into the wall, or do you keep just trying to hold off Dylan Banks?
You keep on holding off Dylan Banks, but right now, as we say that, we got, a little under 41 laps to go. Right now is the time that he's really got to not waste time on Nolan Hodgins and Neil Pearson to get back to Matt Long, because right now, Dave, the sands of the hourglass are starting to run out.
Right you are here on lap 309. Matt Long leading this piece out of Atlanta, Georgia, just ahead of Neil Pearson, who's sipping on the coffee down there in Australia. Nolan Hodgson, though, we're going to ride along with him again. As he looks to the inside of Neil Pearson, he's not going to settle for third position. He says, I want to score more points and try to pad that lead that he has right now in our point standings.
Yeah, so as we're coming through the tri-oval, high above the speedway here in the chopper cam, I don't know why they gave Matt Mettler the keys to the chopper, but, look.
He heard
bring him down.
Up there.
I mean, look. SRM does not pay. If he wrecks it, he doesn't get workman's comp. Okay.
I mean, I thought workman's comp would have been fun to claim, like if you stumble over something.
I mean, wrecking a helicopter? I don't know. He'll get the bill for the helicopter.
I didn't even know it was one of those holidays, but fireworks being set off down the street from my house. I'm never sure if it's gunshots or fireworks, and tonight it just happens to be fireworks.
That's our favorite St. Louis City game.
Gunshots or fireworks?
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be coming to ABC this fall. 7 contestants sit there with blindfolds on, and they light up either fireworks or gunshots. What was that place? Jefferson, Missouri, or something?
Oh, Jefferson County. Hey, where I'm from down here in wonderful House Springs, Missouri, you sort of know if it's a gunshot because someone's done something stupid.
When I was a kid, I grew up right next to the game lands, and on opening day of buck season, which was the Monday after Thanksgiving, you could basically open up the windows and listen to what I was pretty sure was a war zone outside as everybody was trying to kill Bambi's dad.
Oh boy, hunting with Alan. Look, the only thing I hunted in the woods was Z's.
Never got into hunting. I'm not anti-gun, I'm just anti-killing things with guns. The only way that I want to see my meat is properly slaughtered by somebody who's gone through at least a 4-hour safety course.
But you're right on the war zone thing. It does sound like a war zone, and opening day of deer season here typically takes place right around the time of Veterans Day. Yeah.
That's a fair point. Matt Long, our race leader, though. Sean Rogers and Paul Hill getting ready to get hot and heavy here. As the 70 of Dylan Banks has now crawled up into P4. He's managed to get around, nope, never mind, just kidding. I thought he was going to get around Sean Rogers. But Amanda Price's boyfriend, Sean Rogers, here in the 44, holding his own alongside former race leader and pole sitter Dylan Banks, as Dylan Banks runs P4 right now after qualifying on the pole. And, of course, kind of a rough stop there, having to get some damage repaired on the old 70 machine during the recovery drive. He has done incredibly well after restarting in the top 10 just barely.
Well, one thing I want to touch on, Nolan Hodgson, up there in third. This is why he's the point leader right now, because he's putting himself in position to win these races. If not win, at least get himself a good finish, be on the podium almost 90% of the time. He's always there. I don't get a chance to be in the booth with you guys all the time, but I do watch these races, and Nolan Hodgson is one of those guys that are very, very consistent here with, 20 laps or 30 laps to go left in this race. Sean Rogers is giving Dylan Banks a bit right now in that 44 car. working the inside. Now he's going to cross over and go to the outside.
Naughty XLX Wolf Gaming coming to our defense in the YouTube.com live chat. We appreciate you. I know that we've seen you many times in the YouTube.com live chat this year, so we appreciate that, Naughty XLX Wolf. As we are here on lap 321, 30 to go now. It seems like it was just minutes ago that the green flag dropped and we were at lap number 1, but here we are on 321 with Matt Long, our race leader. All of a sudden, Dylan Banks has now melted back into 7th position. He's now being passed by Tanner Marty. It almost makes me feel like because he's been stuck back in traffic that the 70 is not good in traffic, that it's really only good up in clean air.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, what's good for the goose is not always good for the gander, right? So, if you're Dylan Banks, you kind of want to keep that clean air and don't get into turbulence because it's going to spell bad news. And to your point, maybe he found his car was cleaner, was better, ran better in clean air. And that's why he's able to lead all them laps to dominate the first and second stages.
Yeah, Dylan Banks was dominant for so long in this race, to your point. And, listen, you can't win them all, that's for sure. As Lillington is still proud of what he's able to do out here week after week. We look a little further back here and see Bobby Anderson getting ready to try to overtake Eric Papineau in the 17. We still haven't had a chance to talk to Papineau as we've had some other storylines break loose here. But next caution, I promise we'll try to get a hold of Papineau, as he and Bobby Anderson are exchanging positions and nearly exchanging paint coming into turn 3 as they now separate themselves a little bit. It seems like maybe they drew a line in the back seat of the station wagon to keep one kid on one side of the car and one kid on the other. Don't cross this line.
Oh boy, the family road trip. Yeah, bring it up.
Nobody's done the old Queen family truckster in 40 years.
No, but my parents just stuffed 3 kids in the back of a 1990 Ford Escort and trucked us out of Western Kentucky. 3.5 hours of your father yelling, "Get your knees out of my back!"
I can't
no fun for anybody.
Any reason to drive to Western Kentucky.
Kentucky Lake, and I had family down there.
Yeah, I still don't think I'd go visit them.
I mean, look, I love Western Kentucky.
I mean, that is where Abraham Lincoln was born. You could go see the homestead.
Yeah, or you can go see Kentucky Lake. You can go see our very own Sam Fraser down there at Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Very true. Very true. And you can also get the world's best bourbon.
Yes. Yes.
328 laps in the books here at the line, as nearly making contact once again as the 17 and the 18, as Papineau and Anderson are not done yet, that's for sure. This is probably one of the closest battles on the racetrack at the moment. As for the time being, it looks like Papineau has decided to cool off and let Anderson have the lead. They get themselves around the 71. That's Keith Long, who's down a lap. Whoa! Coming across the racetrack is the 18, holding it together. My goodness. Let's run this back and see what happened. The 18 just slid right across the nose of Bobby Anderson. I'm sorry, of Eric Papineau. Let's see if we can look at this one more time. Now, wow.
Yikes.
I can't believe that netcode didn't come into play there.
I'm surprised it didn't either. Wanting to go.
Go ahead.
Bobby Anderson, look, I thought he was going to do a little landscaping there in the tri-oval.
Well, and with 20 laps to go, Matt Long starting to open up a distance here between himself and Neil Pearson of about 0.7 of a second. So obviously there's some kind of a secret to getting up here in the clean air. And quite frankly, Matt Long looks like he may be notching another win in his belt tonight. as right now he is our race leader with 19 to go.
Hey, look, if you're Matt Long, you're sitting high, wide, and handsome right now, but you got lap traffic coming ahead of you, and that looks like it's Chris Claude up there in that tank car, who's just ahead of Matt Long there. And wow, I got good eyes. That was Matt Claude.
Matt Long looking to go for win number 2 on the season tonight. He last won, well, the Coke 600. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it at the big one, that's for sure. But Matt Long with a string of top fives. You know, he's got an average start of 4.8, an average finish of 10.2. And this just, to me, screams Matt Long's night.
I mean, a lot of things have gone right for him so far. You know, we saw the 70 car, and that was Dylan Banks dominate stage 1 and stage 2. But here's stage 3. It feels like it's been all Matt Long all day long. And I'm a poet and didn't even know it. Matt Long. Matt Long leading the field to the tribal. Neil Pearson falling back to a second lead or second deficit and falling into the clutches of Nolan Hodgson, who is, you know, or starting to fall into the clutches of Nolan Hodgson. Lamar's Iowa own Nolan Hodgson. Here comes Matt Long going around the 89 car, putting Mark Johnson or Steve Herring another lap down. And I mean, Matt Long is just so smooth. 14 to go as Matt Long comes down that back straightaway. In the turn number 3-4 complex. And here he comes, 13 to go, and there's a car into the wall. It's a Red Bull car. I'm not for sure who the number is on that one. Oh. Well, Timothy Cook just went from bad to worse as that car has scraped the wall, and the Red Bull sure did not give him wings tonight.
No, he's already down 8 laps, so that's not going to help his cause, that's for sure. As we've got 4 cars that are completely out of the race tonight. Of course, Pruitt never took the Pruitt did take the start finally, but right now drivers out is Hamilton, Eckert, Pruitt, and Rodriguez. So they've all put it on the hauler now with 12 to go. Matt Long, your race leader out of Atlanta, Georgia, as I had mentioned just a moment ago, looking to notch that second win of the season tonight. And, you know, it's interesting when I get to see some of these guys where they win at the 1.5 miles, then they can win at the short track, and then maybe scratch a top 3 or 5 out at a super speedway, and all of a sudden you're contending for that points lead.
I mean, quickly how things can change. I mean, that's insane. I just want to be able to. I just want to be able to see Matt Long, do a short track, 1.5 miles, and then maybe even notch a win at like a road course or something, or go to Indianapolis and run good there.
Well, with Matt Long being able to win the Coke 600 a couple of weeks ago, and now come here to Iowa and lead with 9 to go, he's getting into that lap traffic, and this is what's going to be tough for him as we look from high above. There's Matt Long with Randall Watkins on the high side. Now that's an and let's just say unintentional driver that's in the way, as well as Matt Mackin in the 01. The 62 of John Wilco is now behind, and wowee, there's Mark Johnston in the 7-Eleven number 80, nearly taking out the race leader Matt Long, as Long now works his way through all of those lapped cars with 8 laps to go.
Definitely 8 laps left in the books here. Matt Long, well, now it's 7 to go. Matt Long is Oh man, he's out to almost 2 seconds over Neil Pearson as he goes underneath Ron Fitting and puts Ron Fitting another lap down.
Matt Long putting cars down. He picks them up and he puts them down. He, kind of waited until the perfect moment, especially after Dylan Banks got damaged earlier by accident. Literally in an accident by accident. So Dylan Banks running in P8. Right now it goes Matt Long, Neil Pearson, Chris Davis, Nolan Hodgson, Sean Rogers, Tanner Marty, Paul Hill, Dylan Banks, Seba Cornez, and Michael Witt.
Yeah, 5 to go. 5 flanges in the air for Matt Long. What a run Matt Long's had in this closing stage. And I got to tell you, Dave, what a masterful third stage that Matt Long has put on.
Yeah, he finally has figured out how to get around and boogie through this league as Neil Pearson, whoa, almost puts the chrome horn to the 0-1. Obviously, they're not on the same pace, but that was almost a little disrespectful to come up right behind the 0-1 of Matt Mackin and give him a shove like that to get him out of the way, essentially lifting a lapped car out of the way.
Three to go. Chris Davis finds himself at the bottom end of the podium.
Yeah, Nolan Hodgson still trying to get himself up onto the podium, but with 3 laps to go, they roll out of turn number 4. The popsicle sticks go in the air, and we're 2 laps to go. Matt Long out of Atlanta, Georgia, has worked his way through this league and finally found out the secret to winning. As he comes down the back chute once more and out onto the front, the popsicle sticks go down, the white flag is in the air, and we're racing back to checkers. Matt Long here has 4 starts on short tracks this season. He has an average start of 5th, an average finish of 12.5. He's obviously finally done much better in that. And at a short track like this, I cannot be more excited for the man, the myth, and the legend who comes out of turn number 4. Barney's got that checkered flag in his hand. Matt Long crosses the start-finish line and wins here at Iowa Speedway. After spending weeks and weeks as a bridesmaid, picking up the first win of his season at the Coke 600 a couple of weeks ago, he comes in here to Iowa Speedway and shows how to get it done after Dylan Banks was so dominant earlier on this evening. It's going to be Matt Long, Neil Pearson, and Chris Davis on the podium. They'll be followed by Nolan Hodgson and Sean Rogers in the top 5, and Tanner Marty, Paul Hill, Dylan Banks, Seba Cornez, and Michael Witt in the top 10. So, Matt Long, you have earned it. Go ahead and burn it down.
Driver out of Atlanta, Georgia. Oh, boy. I mean, they're going to ring the bell. They're going to ring the bell. If he was in Dawsonville, they'd be ringing the bell right now. But, Matt Long, nonetheless, what a drive. Second win, picks it up at a short track.
He's in the broadcast waiting booth.
Matt Long, it's Dave Regal and Alan Bergen up here in the broadcast booth. You got a copy, brother?
Yes, sir.
Look at you coming to victory lane for the second time in 3 weeks. First, you notched that initial win at the Coke 600, and tonight you show everybody who's boss here at Iowa after 350 laps. How are you feeling?
Woo, that one feels real good. I mean, I did not think we had the car tonight to do anything. Dylan was freaking fast all race and got caught out that green flag pit stop. But I tell you, when the when the sun started going down, she came alive, man. And yeah, I just we got the lead and we just drove away. I didn't look back, and it was hooked up.
Yeah, I mean, as the sun went down, the track temperature cooled off and the speeds went up. The times, started to get faster and faster. I mean, you still couldn't eclipse that Paul Hill or that Dylan Banks 24:02. Your best time tonight was 24:12. But hey, you when you're the first driver to cross the start finish line when the checkered flag comes out, that's better than all the track times in the world.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I mean, me and Neil were just talking there. We were just hoping for top 5 tonight, and yeah, that was like a good old boomer race for me. I mean, just taking what the car will give me, staying out of trouble, and then fell into our lap at the end. We took advantage of it.
Well, it's got to feel pretty good to have a teammate finishing behind you. I mean, just in case something calamitous were coming near you, they can always be your last line of defense before the challenger gets to your rear bumper. So you managed to hold off the field tonight after a dominant night, from Dylan Banks. As we get ready to go to next week, what are you thinking as we start to shift our focus?
What? I don't even know what track is next week. Can you remind me?
I can remind you as soon as I look it up. Here it is. Next week we're going to New Hampshire, so it's going to be another short track.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, hopefully we have a little better car there, and anything I got to brake and turn, I'm pretty good at. So I'm looking forward to it. We just got to keep these top 5 streak going and set ourselves up for the playoffs.
All right, my man. Well, listen, congratulations. And as always, we got to ask you, who helps you get it done here on the 97?
Yeah, it's the same answer every week. I love racing with my teammates, man. Neil, Andrew, and Bobby. They're awesome. You guys for putting on the show. Chris running the league, and all the friends and family out there watching. Appreciate y'all.
All right, my man. Well, listen, one more time, I want to congratulate you. And hopefully next week at New Hampshire, you may love that racetrack, so let's hope to see some more success from you in the 97. Alan, I believe you're down on pit road now with Neil Pearson.
Hey, guys. How you going?
Hey, Neil, it's Alan down here on pit road and Dave up in the booth. How's it going?
Pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that second place. I was not expecting it, so it's a good comeback.
Well, hey, look, I bet the coffee tastes a little bit better now that you're on the podium here this evening. And we made several comments. What's the secret sauce from going from road courses to being successful on road courses to being successful on the ovals here?
I honestly don't know. I think I've just been doing a lot of oval races, my time in iRacing. So, I've been around doing oval since 2008. So I think that just helps with the experience and, just being adaptable to the cars, I guess. And the road courses, I've always been good at those. So I guess just having the experience and the ability, I guess, just makes it easy to transition between the two.
Yeah, and so, next week we go to New Hampshire. Do you feel like New Hampshire's a little bit of a challenge for you, than tonight was? Do you feel like that's going to be more of a challenge for you with it being a flat oval?
I think tonight was a bit more of a challenge. This place, I really struggled all race. Right up until the end, I was just so loose. I just could not get the car to drive how I needed it to drive. So, I mean, but I've also got no experience here before either. So, in New Hampshire, I've done a lot of laps there, and it's good fun. And the flat corners, the roadie course experience kind of helps there because, it's the same braking style as you would a road course. Obviously not as aggressive, but it's more of a road course style track than this one.
Yeah, so, like I said, once again, congratulations on the P2 finish. But before we get you out of here, is there anybody that you'd like to thank to help get you here tonight?
Yeah, Dirty South Racing. Matt, congrats for the win. Chris Davies on the third place. Real commiserations to Dylan. He had car to beat the whole race today. And, yeah, it just sucks that a random caution in the middle of a pit cycle ruin him there, put him in the back. You guys for the broadcast. Chris for the series, and can't wait for New Hampshire next week.
All right, my man. Well, we're going to get you out here and celebrate that P2 finish with your team. Dave, back up to you in the booth.
Thank you for that, Alan. And, of course, last but certainly not least, on our podium tonight, driver of the number 74, Chris Davis out of Koshkonong, Missouri. Hey, Chris, it's Dave up in the booth. You got me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, man, listen, you come across the line third tonight. You get yourself onto the podium kind of in an unexpected fashion, and you were able to hold off Nolan Hodgson. How hard was it to hold off the 12 tonight to finish here on the podium?
Oh, racing Nolan's always hard. He's so good. But the car really came to life there as soon as the lights come on. So I was able to start picking off some spots. I think I restarted there in like 10th and got up to third. So overall, a good night. I do have to apologize to Dylan and Chris Custard and Sean. While I was trying to stay up with Dylan and ended up getting into Chris and got Dylan some damage on that, so I feel horrible about that.
Well, then I guess that you're going to be the sportsman of the night, because it takes a big guy to apologize when they make a mistake or to admit when they've made a mistake. And, the thing is, at a place like Iowa, it's basically a mile-long racetrack. It's considered a short track. And those kind of things happen, especially when you're running a field that's 35 and 40 cars strong. As we turn our attention next week, of course, to New Hampshire, what are you thinking about as far as strategy? And, is it going to be more of a let's just wait and see, or is this going to be full send?
I think so much with this car, if it has a trend to go caution fast, then you're going to see everybody push super hard. But if we get long runs like we did tonight, you'll see myself. I know a lot of the Conti guys just sit back, save, maybe drop a few spots, but then hopefully rocket back up to the front once the tires start wearing off.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, before we cut you loose tonight, who do you need to thank and who helps you get it done on the 74 team?
Yeah, I got to thank Sean Rogers, great teammate, Jeff Carson. Got to thank Kenny Coppola for helping me with some tips, and then Jordan Smeech for helping me get some last-minute adjustments on the car, Martin Sports, and just all the Beast Mode Performance guys.
All right, buddy. Well, listen, once again, congratulations on the podium finish, and we will see you next week at New Hampshire. Alan, another one in the books tonight as we get ready to close the curtain on Iowa here in the Hawkeye State. And what a race you picked to go ahead and fill in for Matt Metler.
Oh, man. Look, they built it, they came, they raced it, and, what a race, man. Who would have thought that Dylan Banks would dominate the first and second stage, only for Matt Long to come away with that win?
Yeah, it's an impressive win, so as it is for the Dirty South Racing stable, with two of those drivers finishing here on the podium, and we would be remiss if we didn't cover it now. 13 drivers finished on the lead lap, but Matt Long finished ahead of everybody else and captured the checkered flag tonight, and he's joined on the podium by Neil Pearson and Chris Davis. Nolan Hodgson and Sean Rogers round out your top five, while Tanner Marty and Paul Hill finish in 6th and 7th. Dylan Banks, Seba Cornez, and Michael Witt round out the top 10, with Bobby Anderson going in 11th place. 12th place goes to Eric Papineau, while Kavaja Holt finishes in 13th. Here, the last car on the lead lap. 14th goes to Rich Jet, with Keith Long and Michael Caffrey in 15th and 16th. Ken Ron finishes in 17th with Mark Johnston in 18th. And Steve Carring and Chris Custer round out your top 20, Alan.
Finishing 21st is Chris Claude, the Chief Cook and Bottle Washer here at SNN. John Wilco finishes 22nd, while Randall Watkins comes home 23rd. Timothy Cook in that 09 car did not get the wings from a Red Bull like he thought he would, finishes 24th. Logan Giesbrecht finishes 25th. Matt Mackin finishes 26th. 27th goes to Ron Fitting. Chad Sander finishes 28th. Cody McCorkle finishes 29th, while Anthony Samiano finishes 30th. 31st is Andrew Deemer. Noah Hamilton finishes 32nd. Ethan Eckert finishes 33rd. 34th goes Richard Pruitt. And winning the race to the beer stand tonight is Rafael Rodriguez.
35 cars took the green flag tonight. 35 come across the line. Of course, Rafael Rodriguez having a rough night there, finishing dead last. But believe you me, he will be putting the fear of God into everybody next week at New Hampshire. So for myself, Dave Regal, and, of course, my esteemed broadcast partner, Mr. Al, we'd like to thank you for making SRM a part of your evening. We thank everybody who tuned in and checked in on the live chat. So once again, as always, we want to thank you for welcoming us into your homes, onto your phones, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. And tomorrow and every day as you walk down the road of life, please don't plan traffic. Good night, everybody.